You can unmute us again, Christine. I think we're good to go. All right, good morning, everybody. Welcome to our April board meeting. I'll start this meeting by acknowledging and respecting the Indigenous land within whose traditional territory we are meeting today. And I will ask for adoption of the agenda. Thank you, Director Woodward. Second. Thank you, Jackman. Any corrections? Additions? Seeing none, all those in favor? Thank you. Opposed? All right, in the minutes from last month, Mark. Thank you, Laboon. Thank you, Tierney. Any corrections? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Thank you. CAO, you have some introductions to make.
Sure. Thank you for the chair. So a little bit of a turnover in our utilities department. One of our operators, Dave Sharon, has moved on, and Tori Mooney is replacing him. Amy Kraft joins us in human resources. She's supporting us during a little bit longer medical leave that we weren't anticipating. So we brought someone to help support that group. Gina Harding's moved over to the development technician role in Preston after John Purdy's retirement a little while ago. And Christy Calder joins us, replacing Tricia Davison as our regional manager of recreation and common services. That fills out that little bit of a domino effect when Joe Keeler goes to town.
Good work, thank you. I do want to just check, alternate director Lang, I noted, put your camera on. Can you hear us okay? Thumbs up, okay, great. Good stuff. All right, moving right along, committees and commissions, 3.1 Area A, Director Jackman.
Yes, these are, they'd be all vote, this is a single area service. And they're both grants to local groups. I'd like to move the two recommendations as a block as per agenda.
Sounds good. Second, the Boone discussion. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. All rest committee director McFadden chair that she's not here. Who would like to move these motions? You moves the first one.
Yeah, I'll move the first motion as it was written.
Thank you. Do we have a second? Thank you, Woodward. Discussion. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. And the next motion?
Yeah, I will move the next motion, but I'll read this one out. That the board directs staff to do a feasibility study in the addition of an account level subsidy for the leisure access program.
Thank you. Do we have a second? Thank you, Hannah Graff. Discussion. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. 3.1.3 Water Services Committee.
Can someone in the room read them out for me? I'm going between screens.
I'll read it out for you. So the first one is that the RDCK utilities rates, fees, and charges bylaw be read first, second, and third time by content and repeal and replace the previous one. Do we have a second? Thank you. Discussion. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Director Newell, do you want me to go ahead and keep reading them? Okay. And sorry, these are all vote. The next one is for adoption of that same bylaw. Do we have a second? Thank you, Jackman. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. And third is the RDCK water bylaw be read first, second, third time by content and repeal and replace the same, well, the previous bylaw. Do I have a second? Thank you. Discussion. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. And then the fourth motion is to adopt said bylaw. Do I have a second? Thank you. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. All right, Ryan Commission, back to you, Jackman.
Yes, thanks. This in the facility is $400,000 reserve, some CBT funding for some improvements to the facility, which we do, and some community association money. And we didn't have a pull together for budget. So you'll see through this summer a bunch of these little move out of that reserve into the construction budget for these projects as they evolve. So I'd like to move the recommendation. It says participants only, but that's all vote because it's just me. Move the recommendation as per the agenda.
Do we have a second? Thank you. Discussion? All those in favor? Opposed?
I guess it's all, that's financial.
Yes. Joint Resource Recovery Committee, so Director Hewitt chairs that committee. She is not here today. I will call on anybody who would like to move these motions. Woodward, you're moving the first motion. Okay, do we have a second?
And this term.
As per written, discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Carried? And the next motion, I'll vote weighted, so I should be saying that.
I will move that one.
Thank you, Director Popoff. We have a second. Anna Graff, discussion. You're watching online. I don't have my chat up. Oh,
You want me to read it out? Okay.
I think we're good. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Good down there? Yeah, you. For some reason, I thought you were looking at me like I'm trying to talk. Director Lyle.
Funny sometimes.
Sorry.
I just look funny sometimes.
Oh, no, I was trying to pick up something if I missed it. The third motion, for joint resource.
Sure, that's the wood grinding, wood reduction service,
you.
sure, so moved.
Do we have a second? Thank you, Popoff. Discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. All right, membership in committee, so Director Popoff, we really wanted to make sure this was on there. Do you want to move that one?
Yeah, thank you. I'll move that motion that Area H North Advisory Planning and Heritage Commission for a term to expire December 30th, appoint the following: Marcy Marr, Nadine Reynolds, Ezra Bullard, and Robert Inwood.
Thank you. Do we have a second? And note, it's you'll have more than that in the motion, so it's the resolution number 6. It's okay, you don't have to read it, just making sure we're moving the whole thing.
Okay, yes.
Okay, so this is appointments to 6 and 10. Do we have a second? Thank you, Hannah Graff. Discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. All right, correspondence. Noting 4.1.1 was removed just because it was a draft, and the one that was added was the one that was actually sent. So that's why that was removed. Would anyone like to pull 4.1.2 or 4.2?
Yes, 4.1.2, please.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, so I commend the amount of community energy and actually funds and everything that's gone in to try and elevate this to a position where they look for a long-term solution to ferry disruptions, especially not so much the east shore where you can drive around, but to the more isolated communities, Herr Proctor, Glade. But also this has to apply for the entirety of Arrow, for the cusp. They are their drive around option is more serious than some of ours. At least we are Preston. I have some concerns because this continues to focus on the legislated solution. And I have some concern about presumption of who's signatory versus who's copy. I try to make it clear that if the letter is going out and including area A, it would say more. It would say that we are still concerned that the contract has not been signed. Vince already said September 30th. That didn't happen. And he said January 1st. And he did say 2026. I double checked. This contract could well expire or failing binding arbitration and go into job action again. This is extremely important to us. This long-term legislative solution, I cannot see it coming in advance of all the issues spinning around the provincial agenda. This is just one optimistic outcome. We still have work to do. I don't know what the answer is, but I also think we need to have a better understanding with the society that they're trying to represent 14 ferries across the entire province. And that maybe their voices are a little bit too limited. Before having the conversation with the minister, have they talked to the customer and area Cape? Have they sat down and actually talked to them about what matters and what the short-term risks are to not having a long-term solution? Because talking to the minister about one thing and presuming that's the solution is simplistic. And I've said that to the committee. I know I can be harsh, but it's too simplistic.
Thank you. I've got Hannah Graff, Weatherhead. Hannah Graff, go ahead.
Yeah, just a couple of things, and I
can't tell by reading this if, I think it includes, so the privatized inland ferry service also includes Francois Lake, which you should be talking to them if you want to cover everyone that's in the privatized ferry service. And the other thing, just small correction, you can't go out on strike just because the employer hasn't done what they said they were going to do in the course of negotiations. So the contract has to be expired and certain things need to happen. Of course, there's always the possibility of a wildcat. So I just want to say that there are certain things that need to happen. It's not great, but that's it.
Thank you, Director Weatherhead.
Yeah, thank you. I just last week I got this invitation to attend the advisory, the stakeholder type of meeting for ferries, and I thought that was really interesting. There's obviously a word on the street that this is occurring, but I have not been. There's been no contact, of course, to us, and there's just been no voice at all for more so.
Thank you. We have David off next, and what I want to recommend, David off obviously will let you speak, is that we need to focus on our process here. So I think what we're noting is the process hasn't been super good, and we need to figure out the way to reach out to them to say this is what we prefer. David off, go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. When you meet with your community in a packed hall on New Year's Eve, that was my New Year's Eve over this issue. And maintaining decorum when you have your only link to everything in jeopardy is what we experienced in Glade. And we have been trying very hard to get meetings, to talk to people. Director Graham and I know what we've gone through. But it's like we're not it's no different with Minister Farnworth and on MOTT issues. We get these perfunctory responses. Oh yeah, we're looking at this, we're looking at that. Your roadway, Director Watson, I hope you get more attention than we got in Sure Acres on the issues we have with our degradation of our active transportation network. Anything we can do to advance and bring peace and reduce the anxiety of residents who have no other link to everything we need to do. So I'm going to stop there. I don't want to say anything to, we're just exhausted trying to get some attention, and trying to get a meeting is one thing that we could do. Thank you.
Thank you. You good? Okay. So I'm next on the list, and I do want to know, as chair, I was contacted several times from the media to discuss this, and in doing so, I went back over all the correspondence. We've sent, I believe, upwards of 5 letters to the ministries and received 1 response that was less than adequate. So I think there's 2 things here that, in terms of, again, the process focus, is we've done a lot to try and get the attention. I guess we just don't stop. Advocacy is a critical piece. So we can continue to follow up with Farnworth and our MLAs to address this. I did raise it in my conversation with Modi and Rhodes because I'm aware of it and it's important. The other pieces, I think specifically with this committee, what would be really important would be to request a meeting with them to talk about, number one, when they include us as a signatory, we actually need to somehow document that we've approved that. Just naming us in the document is not necessarily the best process, and also to be able to review the document with us for the things noted that were maybe not super conducive to the advocacy we've had. So I would suggest that there is a motion directing us to, us being the executive possibly with the very effective directors to reach out to the Harold Proctor Committee to just discuss process. Does that make sense? Someone like, I'll move that. Do I have a second? Thank you, Christine. We're good. Discussion on that one. Of course, we'll work with the ferry directors on what that looks like and make sure they're included as we've done previously. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. And then in terms of contact with the minister, again, I think there's 5 or 6 letters we've sent out to them. I don't know that the letter is the process, but maybe I'll just leave that one for now to figure out perhaps a different way. McLaren Co, you were on the list, and then Lockwood, are you on the list too? Yeah, we're still on.
Yeah, we're going, yeah.
Yeah.
I just didn't know if we're going on.
No, we're still on the ferries. McLaren Co, go ahead.
Thanks, Chair. I just wanted to say quickly, in the committee's letter, it exclusively referenced electoral areas, and maybe Nakuspa is unique in terms of municipalities that are mostly ferry access, but I just didn't want to not include municipalities that were affected. And just for information, our mayor at our council meeting on Monday brought up some advocacy work he'd like to do around ferries, so there's collaboration options there.
Thank you. David Off, I do see you back on the list. Go ahead.
Yeah, you asked about what we could do. I was asked, and obviously I said no, it's probably not a good idea. But what if Highway 3A was blocked for 1 day at the Glade Esso? And the key thing, that's what I was asked. What if we blocked the highway for 1 day at the Glade Esso to see if the minister might get some attention about our issues? And I says, I don't recommend doing that. That's an illegal action. But I'll tell you, it would work. I'm not recommending it. Thank you, Chair. Officially on the record, I'm not recommending it.
Thank you, Director David Off. I can note that when I had that meeting with MLA Anderson and the minister, I said, so we do know that if the road was blocked, there'd be immediate action. So I just noted that.
Thank you, Chair.
So on this correspondence, we have the one motion to reach out to the committee just to talk about process. We're good on that for now. The next correspondence 4.2, did somebody want to pull that one? Lockwood, go ahead.
Thank you. I understand why they would like the request for the building the permit fees be waived, although are we opening up? I know this is just a letter, but are we opening up a list of things of what gets waived? So yes, it's really good about needing to have a daycare, but also housing is really good. So do we waive those things? That's my concern. I know it's just sitting in front of us as information right now, but I'm sure that it's going to come back at some point that there's a motion.
Stuart?
For the chair, currently there is no motion. I've got no indication that
Yeah.
there would be a motion on this.
It process-wise, it would require a board director making the motion to do so, and I guess your questions are relevant to whether or not you would do that. I did ask if we have done this before in terms of precedent. We have not done this before. Speakers list is Graham and then pop off. Go ahead, Director Graham.
Thank you. So through the chair, I have discussed this with Stuart and I did not wish to pull it. So just so we're clear on that, thank you.
Thank you, Director Graham. Director Popoff.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Reading that letter, all good reasons for waiving the permit fee. But we had development happening in the Slocan Valley, specifically New Denver and Slocan. And I'm interested to know what happened. Did they waive the permit fees? Although we do permit inspections on buildings there, did they waive the permit fees? For affordable housing?
No, through the chair, the regional district in my time here has not waived any building permit fees.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. So that's the note on there was no precedent set. We've never done this before. When we waive a fee, it means someone else picks up the bill. So it's not really a waiving, it's a moving it to someone, which is the taxpayers. So no one is making a motion. We're good on this one. We're gonna move along. What is next? Village of Salmo. This is for adoption. If you have questions, ask in advance. Go ahead.
I do not have any
Okay.
questions. That the Village of Salmo's fire truck security issuing bylaw number 3073/2026 be adopted, and the chair and the corporate officer be authorized to sign the same.
Thank you. Do we have a second? Thank you. We can't discuss adoption. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried.
May I make a comment? Just say thank you. You're welcome. Thank you for all the work that the RDTK has done to help us with it.
One of the great benefits of being a member of the municipality. District. Paragraph. Oh yeah, go ahead. This is yours.
Yeah, I'll move the motion as presented in the agenda package
I'll
that
second it.
Thank you,
be
Dr. Beaufort.
approving, be awarded.
Discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. 6.2.1, Director Newell, Markin temporary use permit. Do you want to move that motion? Nope, okay.
No,
I'll move it
no,
for
I,
you.
could someone move it for me? Let my surface isn't working properly. I'm trying to set up my iPad. It's bouncing around. I think I have a hardware failure. So
Okay.
I'm here, but I can't move stuff. But I do want to move this. So I'll move it.
Okay, moved. Do we have a second? Thank you. Discussion? Go ahead, Jackman.
Yeah, I have two questions through the chair for staff. The first one is this sketch, as part of the temporary use permit. I think it should be removed. It's not to scale, but it infers the size of an accessory building if you use a lot line size. It also infers that the residence will be smaller than the accessory use. I brought this up at Pratt. I didn't think we'd be jumping ahead so quickly, so that's the first. Could this sketch be removed? Because it shouldn't infer any scalable pre-approval. The second question is, are we able to confirm that this will be limited to 3 years? There will be no option for an additional 3-year extension. Because the whole point was they said we needed a little bit of time to get the building permit together for the residents. 3 years is lots of time. So the two questions. The second one might want us to add a word or two that this is non-renewable or something along that line.
So I have both Nelson and Sangita on the line. I don't know that Zach is. He's the report author who would like to take that. Nelson, you unmuted. Go ahead.
The question on timing, it's at the discretion of the board. They can pick whatever timeline they think appropriate. But 3 year under the legislation, after 3 years, if that is the decision of the board to approve it for that period, it can be renewed for an additional 3 years at the discretion of the board.
So we'll get that question. Does that work for you? And then we'll go back to the other one.
Well, it could state temporary use permit very clearly for 3 years with no right of renewal or with no extension, no possibility for extension. Maybe that one. Because we've seen it. They know that we give 3-year extensions. Somebody might take 2.5 years and then be looking for an extension before they actually get to work on their residential application.
So are you moving an amendment that this is?
Well, I'm asking staff if it's maybe I don't have any clear wording. I guess we just leave it to the future board, see what happens on. On the second one, I think the sketch is misleading. I don't see the purpose of it being part of this room.
So in terms of the sketch piece, Nelson, can that be removed?
I don't see why not.
Yeah. Okay, and do we need to amend anything in the motion to identify that?
Through the chair, no. I think with the attachment, we can simply remove it.
Okay.
If you were changing the wording of the TUP, then I would suggest writing something in there, but looking at schedule, that can be direction to staff.
Okay. And Director Newell, you're unmuted. Can I just check with you? You're good with this?
Yeah, I mean, just as long as they get the temporary use permit, I don't really care.
Okay.
Sorry, I'm unmuted. I'm just struggling with the computer here. So I'll mute now.
Okay, thank you. All right. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. All right, 6.2.2. I failed to mention at the beginning of the meeting, although we didn't have a delegation at the beginning of the meeting, we do have 3 delegations within the meeting, one in this portion of our day. So Stephanie, you're here, and then we also have, I didn't see them, where did they go? They may have turned on their camera. Hi, Camille. And Patrick online. So this is the Complete Communities project, and I'll hand it over to Stephanie and the team.
Thank you, Chair Watson. The project team made up of our consultants and RDCK and partnering municipal staff from Castlegar, Preston, Caslow, Nakusp, Nelson, Sawmill, and Slocan are happy to be bringing the final report forward for the Regional and Local Community Needs Project at today's board meeting. As part of our project closeout, the consulting team will be making a presentation on the project generally, focusing on the final report. So in the interest of time, I'm going to turn it over to Camille from Liquor Geospatial and Patrick from Modus Planning and Design to kick off the presentation. And as the board knows, both the consultants and staff will be available and happy to answer questions after the presentation. Thank you.
Right. Thank you, Stephanie. So welcome, or I guess it's a pleasure to be here today. I'm going to just share my screen to get my slides up on the screen for you. So just give me a quick moment here. Can everybody see my slides there?
We can see them. Yes, go ahead.
Thank you. Okay. So, it's been a pleasure working with your staff and your communities over the last year or so on this project. It's also really great to find ourselves at in the final step of this process, which is to present a summary of our findings through this project. So I'm just going to start off by acknowledging that we are here to respect the Indigenous peoples within whose traditional lands we're meeting today, and those lands that we're studying and researching on. You'll notice that in our report, we do note the importance of not only engaging with your communities in any kind of future planning work, but to also engage with local First Nations and Indigenous peoples in your communities as well for that future planning work. So the work that we undertook, it was a very collaborative effort. It encompassed partnerships with several municipalities across the regional district. So that included Salmo, Nakusp, Slocan, Caslow, Castlegar, Nelson, and Creston. And we thank all the time that the planners and other officials from those communities provided in terms of making sure that this project was a real collaborative effort. Today, I'm going to introduce myself as well as the Liquor Geospatial team that worked on this project. We'll go back to the project goals and process, just a quick reminder on those. I'm going to give you a taste of the final report, and we'll focus on the regional implementation and recommendations that are an outcome of that report. And then I'll open it up to questions so that you can have any kind of things clarified for your own future planning efforts. Now, I am Patrick Oistrakh. I'm an associate principal and senior planner with Modus Design, Planning, Design, and Engagement. And we're in collaboration with Liquor Geospatial on this work. So Camille is here today. She's a GIS analyst and project coordinator for this work. And we were also working alongside Erin Liquor, principal and senior GIS analyst, as well as Beatrice Fantini. So just a quick refresher of our project goals and the process that we followed. It's important to note that this was a non-binding study. Everything you find in this report does not limit you or constrain you. It's really just for information purposes, and it was provided through a grant, through a Complete Communities grant that the province was conducting. So This is really just to support plans and future planning efforts of the electoral areas and the partner municipalities that I listed earlier. It explores the capacity for change in communities across the region, and it's really just a first of its kind in the region because it manages to assemble all data from across the various electoral areas and communities and provide data, baseline information, and analysis for those future planning efforts. So it's a coordinated effort, and I think you'll find there's a lot of valuable information in there. Some of the benefits of doing proactive planning rather than just reactive planning is that by coming out and looking and analyzing some of these indicators, we can plan for the future and ultimately find ourselves with reduced infrastructure costs as an example, because we can identify areas that already have infrastructure capacity. Secondly, we can also increase resiliency in the face of natural disasters. So if we know where those natural hazards exist, we can plan ahead and we can ensure that development and growth and other types of amenities are located in areas where they won't face those natural hazards or are at less risk of those hazards. Third, we can build stronger local and regional housing and economies. So really thinking about the areas where, a stronger link between where people live and where people work can reduce, commuting times and can really take advantage of certain opportunities like agriculture and tourism in your regional district. Fourth, we can also improve transportation options, right? So by planning for land use in line with those transportation systems, we can ensure that people can move around the region with greater options and also in a more efficient manner. And finally, environmental protection. So our analysis looked at, which parts of the regional district have high ecological value and trying to ensure that any kind of future planning efforts are protecting those areas and celebrating those natural assets is a key part of this. So in terms of project goals, we set out to establish a shared baseline for those future planning efforts. We set out to also understand the current context. So really looking at the baseline of the environment, of current infrastructure in your communities, the demographics and the makeup of your communities, and we also explored the various policy documents across them. So there's that, and then we also identified potential locations for new homes, transportation, infrastructure, and amenities with that lens of complete communities, and explored the potential impacts of those types of things. So ultimately, you'll see at the end of the report kind of how some of these land use scenarios might impact access to amenities, to transportation, and to more diverse types of housing options. We also developed recommendations for future regional and local planning efforts. Of course, those are meant to now kind of go through all sorts of other kind of filters like community engagement. I think that's really important, and that's something that we haven't quite done in this process. And so a big part of the recommendation moving forward will be to conduct some engagement with your communities. And finally, we really just wanted to ensure that the product, the final outcome here, is meaningful and useful for the various municipalities, the electoral areas, and your staff at the RDCK. Quick overview here of the project process. So we started out in phase 1 by collecting a lot of data and developing indicators for this project. So it was all about preparing ourselves. Phase 2, we did some technical analysis. So we evaluated the indicators alongside your municipal partners and staff and various agencies. We weighed those different indicators, and we also did some site selection with staff from staff from all the municipalities, I should say. Led to a hotspot analysis, which we'll touch on. And we also, just worked really collaboratively with the municipalities here. In phase 3, we did some fringe planning analysis. So we looked at the selected sites and we developed land use concepts. We modeled those concepts, and then we studied the impacts of those concepts. Finally, we're in phase 4 now, and we're at the end of the process, and we're here to report back our findings. So I'll do a quick run through of the final report that you have within your package. The table of contents goes through 5 different parts. There's an introduction that sets the context of this report and of this study. The second part is the regional baseline and the results of that regional baseline. So it really dives into the current makeup of your communities. Then we get into growth suitability hotspots. So this is where we start identifying where those new homes and new jobs might be well suited. In the 4th section, we look at modeling scenarios and understanding the impacts of those scenarios. In the 5th, there's implementation and recommendations. So you'll find kind of a list of recommendations that are organized by priority. And then finally, we have 3 appendices as part of this report. There's the methodology that we undertook to get to the outcomes. Appendix B includes additional mapping just for context and to help out the municipalities as well with that extra piece of data. And finally, Appendix C is an engagement summary of the initial round of engagement that we had in phase 1. So today in my presentation, I'll try and focus on these 3 aspects of the report since we've already kind of presented the regional baseline to you folks in an earlier meeting. So to start off with growth suitability hotspots, you'll note that there's a map in our report, and this is all a part of the GIS package that we'd be able to now present to all of the partner municipalities as well. It includes this kind of dotted map that shows certain areas as either best in terms of suitability for future growth or worst. And so those areas that are in green are typically places that have great access to daily needs. They have great access to transportation. It might be flatter areas as well. And it might be places that have a certain level of infrastructure capacity. These are also areas that have perhaps less ecological value than other areas. And so when you look at those areas that are a little bit in that darker purple, those are areas where there might be steep slopes. There might be very little infrastructure capacity. They might be further away from transportation, further away from those daily needs. And they might also encompass some very high or rich ecological values. So when we take all that data and we put it out and we integrate it into this map, it gives us an idea of where some of the lands that would be best suited for future growth would be located. Now, this is a purely data-driven type of process, so it's important to note that we're not saying you should grow in these areas. There's still many layers of information to get in the future in terms of planning efforts, notably community engagement. The next map I want to show you are the potential community expansion areas. So we took those growth hotspots and then we went to the communities, the various municipalities, and we identified specific areas where that growth might be suitable. And in collaboration with the municipalities, they selected one of those areas so that we could do some modeling. So each of the partner municipalities selected one fringe planning area. You'll see on the table here that, for example, Greater Nelson selected the scenario for Knox Road and Granite Road, and Greater Salmo selected Salmo Heights Road as their kind of scenario to study a little bit further. So we developed a hypothetical land use scenario using existing OCP land use designations at the RDCK. And those were developed to do some modeling. Now, the land use scenario attempts to address a few key things: the environmental context, the housing needs of both the municipality and the electoral area in which that fringe planning area is located, the development potential of certain lots based on the development capacity, based on the zoning, based on infrastructure, and so on, and the regional baseline study we had done in an earlier phase. Each scenario is then modeled to understand how it impacts the completeness against those indicators. So Here is a quick snapshot of one of those scenarios. I know there's a lot of information on the screen here, but you have these one-pagers in your package for each of the scenarios that we did. The modeling results essentially include, on this one-page format, the hypothetical land use concept and the assumptions baked into that. It assumes a full build out of the land use scenario up to 2075 in terms of timeline. And it compares your current indicators in terms of completeness versus future access indicators. So on the bottom right hand of the screen there, you see the future indicators summarized. There's a red line that shows current in terms of access to a range of indicators and future in 2075. So that blue line shows you if all of this were to be built out by 2075, this is how you could improve certain access to daycare, to elementary schools, to daily needs, to transit, to grocery stores, and so on. Now, there's really important caveats to communicate in terms of this because it assumes, as I mentioned, a full build out of that land use concept by 2075. In reality, there's a lot of constraints that will limit that full build out. We can think of especially water and sewer capacity constraints. So, that's likely going to limit the full build out of many of these types of hypothetical land use examples. There's also environmental constraints, so things like topography and environmentally sensitive areas, natural hazards, and so on. There's private landowner interests, of course. No development occurs unless the owner wants to either sell to a developer or develop it themselves. And there's broader economic factors and migration trends as well that are going to impact the realization of this type of thing. So we really need to think about these land use concepts and this modeling and the results of them as hypothetical, and it's really only needed to be used for information. We've included recommendations for each of the scenarios, and they're organized in those 4 complete community lenses. So there's recommendations related to housing, infrastructure, community facilities, and transportation. Now I'm going to touch quickly on the regional implementation and recommendations. Across all the fringe planning areas, we found that there were some common kind of things that really need to be looked at if this is to be used in future planning efforts. So the first is really that servicing capacity in terms of water and sewer is a really critical component in the feasibility of any of this kind of change and development. And that's something that's going to have to be looked at in further detail and in collaboration between the municipalities and the regional districts, of course. Addressing some of these constraints is going to really require that coordination, that collaboration, and also careful prioritization of investments in places where it really makes sense and would bring value to community and where residents would support that type of thing. Now, finally, the regional recommendations are, again, just meant to support the realization of some of this analysis and also that more coordinated and effective regional planning. And as I mentioned, we've organized those recommendations by level of priority. There's high priorities to be acted on as soon as possible, medium priorities to be considered maybe within the next 5 years, and low priority, those to be considered maybe beyond that 5 years. I want to just be very clear as well when it comes to these recommendations that you can take them as they are. They haven't been tested in community. They're not necessary. They're non-binding. And so really these are just meant to give planning staff, give a staff who work in the municipalities and at the RDCK a sense of how they could take a look at those land use scenarios, the modeling impacts, and kind of make a difference in terms of just a more proactive type of planning. Quick snapshot of those regional recommendations. So in terms of things that we've listed in high priority, the first is to develop a regional growth strategy. And really the intent here around a regional growth strategy that might consider growth containment boundaries is to protect some of those rural lifestyles, those rural lands, and ensure that we're really focusing growth and homes and new amenities in places where it makes sense, where it's supported in communities. So in the process of developing a regional growth strategy, that's something that you can do while conducting extensive community engagement and identifying those areas, with the data from this study, but identifying those areas in community to figure out where it makes sense. In terms of medium priorities here, another snapshot, we're saying, placing some of those higher density residential uses where there's real community infrastructure capacity and where those daily needs can be accessed. Also thinking about maybe looking at performance metrics in official community plans so that we can monitor our progress towards meeting, community goals, and also exploring new tools like amenity contribution charges to help fund some of those community amenities that are so important when we're growing. We need to pair that with, new parks, new community centers, new transit amenities, and so forth. And finally, in terms of low priorities, just embedding maybe those development permit area guidelines within zoning bylaws where it makes most sense. Improving accessibility and coverage of electric vehicle charging stations, thinking about updating parks, recreation, and culture master plans so that they align with some of these new planning efforts, and maybe developing a full inventory of some of the amenities that you have within your recreation areas and parks as well. So this is just a snapshot of those regional recommendations. Really, in conclusion here of this report and of this project, we want to note that the modeling is non-binding. The results are non-binding. These are hypothetical scenarios just to provide that technical foundation so that we can inform upcoming updates to the OCPs, the zoning bylaws, and other kinds of planning strategies. It really presents an excellent opportunity to shift from that reactive to more proactive planning with community. And finally, this future planning we're recommending should be done with robust community-centered engagement that meaningfully involves residents, First Nations, service providers, yourselves as elected officials, and other interest holders. So with that, I'll just finish off with a few report recommendations here that staff have put forth in the report. That means that the board receive and give consideration to the recommendations in our final report, and that the board directs staff to use that GIS data and give consideration to those implementation and recommendations in our report when undertaking future land use planning activities. So thank you so much for your time. Again, it's been a pleasure working with your staff and with yourselves, and I'd be open to answer any questions now.
Thank you. So we have a few questions. We got Annenberg on there. And we'll start with Director Papa.
Yeah. Thank you, Chair, and to the Chair. All I can say is, wow, what a comprehensive report. Must have taken a long time to do that. You've covered everything. One of my concerns is that's basically growth for fringe areas of municipalities. I'm a rural director. I have communities right throughout from the north to the south, roughly about 200-kilometer stretch. And I'm more concerned about growth in the rural areas. Like, for example, Hills, Roseberry. I can name a whole bunch and I won't go on with there. Then this report does not address those areas because there is limited services. Water is the main, something that is very important to the residents there, sewage disposal. And I see your development permit areas as a low priority. I have a struggle with that. Where an area you have an OCP, but you don't have zoning, we rely on the development permit areas to guide development along in our areas. So that's just my comment on the report. And like I said, very good report. You've done a fantastic job. You've covered everything, but it's more geared towards municipal growth.
Go ahead, Heather. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Sorry, I can't find my hands up button.
That's okay.
But if I may, through the director, through the chair, you're right. The focus certainly is on those fringe planning areas in the land use modeling. However, the growth hotspots suitability analysis did cover throughout the regional district and its electoral areas. And so that map does start to give indications about, where growth might be best suited, where growth might not be good. And so that map, which shows the green and the purple dots there, that is something that planners at the RDCK can use as well. And I think it'll help in places like Balfour, like Crescent. I'm losing my the name of the community there, but in communities like Balfour, where there may be opportunities as well for future growth or change and development.
Just one supplemental. ALR restricts growth in rural areas.
Yeah.
Period.
Thank you. They did note in the report that ALR would be one of the barriers. I'm not going to go next. I'll go through the speakers. Lockwood, go ahead.
Thank you, and thank you for the report. My question would be through the chair is that we just did a workshop on natural disasters, wetlands, our risk tolerance and floodplains. And I'm wondering how or if this was ever considered when doing these, as when I use SAML, it goes right through wetlands and it goes right through ALR and it goes through some areas of disaster and an old dump area. So I'm just wondering how it was determined. I heard that it was SAML or the CAO or whatever that would have picked it. But if they don't know anything about it because it's not within the municipality, what was the deciding factor of how the company picked it to expand it?
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead, Patrick.
Yeah, through the chair. One of the aspects of this analysis is collecting all of the data that was accessible from the RDCK and its partner municipalities. And so natural hazards was certainly a part of that, as was ecological integrity and the value of different ecological assets. So the data sets did include those types of things. Now, I can't speak to the specific outcomes of the workshop that you were a part of. We weren't a part of that, unfortunately. But I would say that this data can be updated. It can be integrated with anything that, with any information that might come up in the future as well. So I would say that yes, we did take a look at the data sources that we had access to, and that did inform the results and the outcomes and our selection of various fringe planning areas. And I don't know, Camille, if you have any specifics about the data that was used, but yeah, that's what I can say.
Yeah, I
Stephanie
guess.
has some. Go ahead, Camille.
Oh,
Steph.
sorry. I was
No.
just gonna add off the top of my head, I know we did have a wetlands layer that we used, and then we also had the recent flood hazard mapping that the RDCK did in 2024, I believe. So those kind of natural hazard understandings were incorporated into the mapping and the hotspot layers. Go ahead, Steph.
Steph says that was what she was gonna say, so I think you're good. Okay. Vandenberg.
Hi, thank you. A lot packed into the report. It was really quite interesting to read through. I'm hearing the key things, non-binding guideline. I see it as a guideline for our RDCK, for our planners to move forward, and that's all good. What is the question will be to staff, I think, more appropriately. What is the expectation of elected officials inputting into what we are seeing today? There's a lot here, and to be able to provide some feedback. And how would that feedback be received from us to amend or to modify because you're looking at recommendations and implementation. So what is the mechanism for us to feed back to you specifically on certain elements that are in the report? Or is it a matter of when we redo our OCP is when all this stuff comes to the surface again? What is that context?
Thank you. Through the chair to Director Vandenberg. I guess my response to that would be almost in two parts. So as a regional board knows, planning has a work plan. We have identified upcoming sub-regional official community plan reviews and electoral area long-term and long-range planning projects. And so the hope would be, if it's endorsed here by the regional board today, to use the geospatial mapping data and analysis that was part of this work as a tool to bring out to the communities, and as our consultants mentioned, for community engagement, to do that real on the ground ground truthing. Did we get it right? Where do we need to make adjustments to that mapping? So that would be built into any long-term planning project and the engagement and communications plan for that project. So it would be tied to a particular planning project. And then the other part would be sort of as and when, as a regional board, in terms of future planning projects, whether they be consideration of a regional growth strategy or I guess intermunicipal fringe planning project. So it's something that the regional board could be exploring with planning staff as we go through workshopping potential future projects.
So further, so there is no mechanism. It's 145 well-written pages, but there's certain things that I want to explore or don't necessarily kind of question mark. But you're saying that I don't have the opportunity to provide feedback at this point in time. There's a lot here.
Go ahead, Steph.
Thank you. Through the chair to Director Vandenberg. Just to clarify, I'm not saying no, the elected officials can't provide feedback. We're happy to get your feedback at any time and through any forum that you choose to, whether it's an email to planning staff about this project and potential future projects, or here today as part of receiving the final report. We're happy to get direction. It's our non-binding report, and if we need to make adjustments to it, we're happy to do that as well. It sits with us. It's our document now.
Okay, thank you.
So my questions are similar, so I'm going to go ahead and follow Director Vandenberg at this time. Because I do really appreciate the work that was done. Of course, it was extensive for a large geography. We had asked them to focus on fringe areas because if you focused on a rural, you would have needed another $1 million in about 5 years. That being said, the data that was collected, I do have concerns with, and I'm not necessarily okay with moving ahead and embedding that in GIS at this time. So I'm going to name a few of those just to kind of build on Director Vandenberg's question about how do we clarify those. The first one is, and this might be more political, but I'm going to reference Allen subdivision, which is area D, just for the consultants. The recommendations in there look at a 5 times the current density in terms of housing. Right off the bat, we're approving a water servicing contract with the village of Casa, who has indicated there's no more connections available. We've actually hit the limit. And should there be a request, they will first explore boundary expansion. So number one, that's where this conversation leads us to, which as a representative for that area and reflecting the official community plan for that area, that does not align. So that is a bit of a concern. The other ones that are a bit more technical are, it indicates it's not in a flood zone. There was a high hazard flood that evacuated this whole community in 2016. And the LiDAR does indicate that above that community, there are risks. So perhaps it's just not in the mapping, but I think that might be a bit of a chicken and an egg thing where the mapping hasn't caught up. But when you look at the geography, it is a slide area. I'm not saying we designated that, but I'd say that is a concern. And primarily that the density indication in here did not warrant, and I won't reference the exact words, I have 5 pages of notes, so I won't reference those, but it indicated that the density was not necessarily suggesting further amenity review. But if you're increasing the density 5 times, you have no more water, there is no sewer. If you're recommending high residential, like multiple story places, and our fire services would need a bigger ladder truck, there are extreme impacts to servicing. So I understand that this is baseline. We just receive it for information. We review it during community engagement. That's all great. But I think my biggest flag is the Village of Castle was already indicating boundary expansion, should there be any increase to servicing in this area. And that's a very difficult conversation to say, I accept putting that into GIS. And I don't think the GIS is accurate given the flood and the slide that happened in 2016.
Mhm.
You got Patrick and Sangeeta, whoever wants to go first.
Well,
Patrick, you're
sure.
unmuted, go ahead.
Sure, I'll go first, and I appreciate those comments. I think it's extremely valuable in terms of comments to take some of these, especially the land use concepts, with a grain of salt. So yes, there is quite a bit of density in that particular location in terms of that land use scenario. It was reflective of kind of the type of scenario that we were modeling for each of the fringe planning areas. And it is for considering a build up to 2075, right? So this is a very long range kind of exercise that we were looking at. So a lot can change within that frame of time. But ultimately, yeah, especially for these fringe planning areas, if you're going to be accommodating the level of density that we're speaking of, it wouldn't surprise me if through collaboration and communication with the partner municipalities, that conversation around, whether it's amalgamation or expansion of the city of the community's limits, municipality limits, is something that comes up as well. I would say the land use scenarios themselves is not something that would necessarily come up in the GIS layers. That's not really something that I think is going to be super useful for folks to use. I think they can reference it, they can look at it, but I think, an actual planning exercise with residents would do a lot to ensure that any of the densities, any of the kind of land use plans that emerge out of that planning exercise are grounded in the realities of that community. Because we're sitting here kind of doing a little bit of that land use planning scenario, very hypothetically, but from a very high level, and it'd be good to be in community, talking to residents, and understand kind of the things like what you're talking about around flood hazards. So appreciate the comments. Definitely something that would need to happen in the future for those land use scenarios, especially.
You wanted to add to that, Sangeeta?
Yeah, thank you, Patrick. You covered a lot of what I thought was relevant to these questions coming up. I just wanted to also point out there was mention of the risk tolerance policy and our floodplain bylaw. Those are all factors that would be considered in the whole process. But I think there is, as Patrick mentioned, bigger conversation to be had with community. And that's how we would use this information more as a conversation starter rather than this is a must. Just wanted to say that.
Thanks, Stephanie.
Thank you, Chair Watson. And I just wanted to clarify the use of the geospatial data. We've had conversations about using that on our RDCK GIS web map. And so the thought would be if the board directs staff to use that geospatial data, is to add it to our internal private RDCK only and our partnering member municipalities GIS layer for staff to use until such time we go out to the communities and do that ground truthing, and we feel confident and comfortable based on that community feedback to create a public facing web map layer for that particular planning project, whether it be the sub-regional official community plan review or any type of long range planning in electoral area D, for example. Those are just two particular projects that we know we're working on. So right now it wouldn't be available, for example, to the public until we were able to have those robust community engagement style conversations about the mapping. Thank you.
Thank you. So I have Hanegraaff and Jackman. Dr. Hanegraaff, go ahead.
Yeah, I share some of the concerns raised by you, Chair Watson, around, water is definitely a concern, and one of the easiest ways to get water into an area like Kootenay, or any of Area J that surrounds the city of Castlegar, which is the majority of Area J, is through boundary expansion from the city, which is not something people necessarily want. And there's a real history between Castlegar and Area J of the city sort of seizing portions of the electoral area. Most recently Selkirk College, which I found out because someone mentioned it as an aside at a meeting a week or so ago. And this happens entirely too often, I'm going to say. And so I look at this and I think, well, if I was the city, I'd be licking my chops saying, what a great way to expand our boundaries by taking up even more of Area J. And I have a good relationship with the city. That doesn't mean I love everything they do. I think the people in Area J are, want to be in Area J for a variety of reasons. And they'll want to maintain that. And water is the biggest problem with an improvement district that is topped out, and ratepayers who aren't gonna see an increase in their rates in order to drill another well for people they haven't even met yet. So it's a struggle. Like, I appreciate the work that's done. I appreciate the report and how well written it is, but I'm just going, I'm scared. Thanks.
Thanks, Director Hanegraaff. Jackman.
Sure, thanks. I was gonna wait until we get to the recommendation to share most of my thoughts, but I think we dovetail fairly well here, so I'm gonna give half of them. I think what Director Hanegraaff just said is we have to have our eyes wide open. We know what happens. We know sometimes it's the best choice for everybody 20 years down the road. Sometimes it's an extraordinarily painful situation, boundary expansion. So why aren't we talking about it? I tried to get us to talk about it a decade ago because it almost happened in the Creston Valley as a municipal district, looking for an order in council. These are real issues. However, I appreciate both the presentation and maybe more succinctly in the staff report. It mentioned this is a 4-lens exercise. It's missing something, I think, Director Vandenberg and everybody since said. It's missing community sentiment. When we get to the recommendation, I don't want to see it say staff use chief blah blah blah. I want it to say we import or record data to complement community input. That's got to be the additional lens from the get-go. When Wendell wanted to incorporate independently, I've gone through it twice. The problems came out, they did the full thing. They said, you guys will never become an incorporated municipality on your own. And there's a lot of people that are bigger than, say, 2 of our smaller villages put together, just in Wendell. And the tax base that they got the mill, huge tax base, which we close. They were told you're gonna have to densify and reduce your lot size, blah blah. And they said, whoa, that's not what we want. That's the community sentiment that's missing. Does Erickson want that? Do the cherry and apple and other farmers that survive want to hear the densification pockets complain? There's a helicopter hovering at 5 a.m. to dry the cherry trees because it rained last night. That's reality in that agricultural area. They didn't want to hear somebody say, I don't like the smell of manure. Because that's the reality in the middle of the flats. Do they want that? Is that community sentiment? We're completely missing that lens by this presumption that, oh, geez, you got a transit system, you got this, you got that regional district water system, which is highly limited in terms of supply. We have the ALR barrier that's been mentioned. All of these barriers, plus community sentiment, is missing. So whatever we do, the lens has to be expanded. We can't say we're going to use data and then move ahead with recommendations in community. That is way too narrow of a lens. I appreciate the scientific, kind of very methodical approach to get so far, but we got a lot more work to do. It's probably a good place for me to cut it off because the recommendation is going to be around the recommendation.
I see Patrick nodding lots, and should we just keep going through the speakers list?
One more comment, sorry, that I think is critical. We talk about, well, risk of a little water system or this or that, or a little this and a little that. Let's look at Calgary when a bunch of us were sitting there and their entire water system collapsed, million feet. And then it did it again. And the number of cities that have blackouts and rolling blackouts, or major sewage system failures and pollute the environment for years. we can't say bigger is better by default. We have wonderful little pocket communities of 50 to 80 houses that have private water and sewer. Yeah, some of them are being challenged by Curie Health, but so are all of our cities. So there's a dual model here. Don't always tell me bigger is better.
Patrick, you had unmuted right before Jackson continued. Is there anything you want to say? Go ahead.
It was only to say that, that's like through the chair that that's absolutely correct. I was nodding in agreement that, that community engagement lens, that community conversation has not been a part of this process, and it's something that we would expect in the future to ground the findings and to ground kind of this report and any kind of future action in community. So really appreciate those comments. Thank you.
Thanks, Patrick. Director Vogel.
Thank you through the chair. My comments do not directly relate to the report, so I'm just gonna pass.
Okay. Like they were commenting either. Vandenberg for a second time, go ahead.
Great, thank you through the chair. I appreciate the community lens sentiment. I think that's extremely important. But my question is around more along the lines of clarity. The benefit of this report provides some layers of data for and the ask is to move this information over into our GIS layers, map layers as well. So my question is around, is that just is there an additional cost to having to move all that information over now and in the future? Have we got it covered in the budget? Is there going to be a future ask that staff needs to have additional money resources, budget resources to utilize that which has been created and paid for already? So I just wanted clarity around that.
Go ahead, Stephanie.
Thank you. Through the chair to Director Vandenberg, the porting over of the GIS deliverable is accounted for in the overall cost of this particular project.
Thank you. So I just noticed we're at 45 minutes. I wasn't quite watching the time on that one because this was, of course, the end of a big project. So I think Patrick and Camille, we really appreciate your time on this project and do want to really reflect the focus was data collection, not necessarily ground truth data collection, but data collection. And that's what you provided. And we did get you to change your scope a few times. So thank you for your pivots and your efforts. Anything from you, Stephanie, before we move into the business component?
No, thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Modus. And do you have two names? Is it Modus and something else? Sorry, Liquor.
Yeah, Liquor Geospatial. Yeah. Thank you so much, everyone. It was a pleasure.
Thank you.
Bye.
Okay, Director, so there is a motion attached to this and we kind of went back and forth. So go ahead, Jackman.
I would like my peers to hear me out second this if they want. We are not accepting recommendations in the report. We are accepting the report as a whole because it identifies limitations. So the first word should be the board received the final report. Yeah. We're not just gleaning the recommendations without understanding the shortcomings. And that the word used to me does not make sense. I would like this to read. And that the board directs staff to input the geospatial data from this project to complement community input for future consideration, et cetera, et cetera.
So that's what you're moving. I just want to check if Christine has it.
Yeah.
Okay, and is there a second on that? Okay, it's been seconded. Right.
I have tons of other stuff I can say, and I think I should not.
I have one clarifying question, Stephanie. So really recognizing this was more of a data exercise, but it of course leaned into the political based on the boundary expansion piece. My question is the GIS data in terms of what was presented in the report, I do have concerns with being accurate. And so is it appropriate to say that the GIS where ground truth is implemented, or is that something that we catch later on?
Through the chair, I see moving forward, having the GIS data we received as part of the deliverable of this project implementing it or adding it to our internal web map layer would allow staff, I guess, better flexibility in using that information to inform future planning projects, whether it's the sub-regional OCP or electoral area team planning efforts where we go out into the community and have those conversations with residents. And that way we can, if it's on our system, we can make those changes as that ground truthing happens without adding it to our internal GIS layer. We're not able to make those adjustments for ground truthing throughout more public processes.
Okay, sure.
Awesome.
Yeah, just a comment to the chair is, will our GIS confirm the validity of the data, whether it's accurate or not? Because I've noticed some inaccuracies in there also.
Stephanie, go ahead.
Through the chair to Director Popoff, as part of the internal project team for this project, we have had a dedicated RDCK GIS staff member who, throughout the process, reviewing all the material received at the different milestones and deliverable dates, has been going through the validity of the data, the accuracy, and the quality of the data. So I think it's a bit of an ongoing process as we move forward with community planning efforts that we continue to work with RDCK GIS to revise this particular or these particular layers.
Lockwood.
Thank you through the chair to staff. When we talk about the inaccuracies, I don't know how far we go down that path with this report, as this report actually had me looking at our GIS mapping in Samo a lot in many different maps. And I found that there was a Cascar address in Samo. So I'm wondering, is it the input from each one of us to staff going through this report? And as Director Popoff had said, is if he notices inaccuracies, is sending that to staff instead of just counting on staff finding it?
Go ahead, Stephanie.
Thank you. Through the chair to Director Lockwood, whether it's a part of this project or just part of our daily service delivery, if an elected official notices an inaccuracy with the geospatial layer, we're happy to take that feedback at any time, whether for as part of this project or outside of the project.
Supplementary, I understand that. I'm asking, does staff want each director to go through their area to see and send in individual emails saying, as Director Popoff said, he sees inaccuracies, to be able to help staff? Is for this report, not for any other stuff. I get that, and I have a list.
Go ahead, Stephanie.
Through the chair, we'd be happy to get feedback from elected officials if they've noticed inaccuracies as part of this project. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, Sangeeta, I can't see hands. It actually hands in a white spot on the screen. So go ahead.
Yeah, I guess I was just confused by what Director Lockwood said, but you know what? We're working on also updating our addressing information. So we're doing that through GIS right now through the NG911 project. So if you did see a Castlegar address in Samo, that's something that needs to be communicated to our GIS. So we're trying to clean that data up right now in real time.
Thank you. And if you could use chat with your name, it just helps seeing you a little better. Thank you, Sangeeta. All right, motions on the floor. We've discussed it. Stephanie, I really want to know this is, again, it's a data exercise. And I do know that when it goes to community planning, that's when we would ground truth it. I think the catch is really, oh, sorry, Graham. I did not see that. The catch is just that as we go through the community work, we very much need to be cognizant of what could be recommended that is not necessarily ground truth yet. So it's a bit of a dance, but I think we're good. Sorry, Graham, I didn't know you were on the list. Go ahead.
So thank you through the chair. I struggle with this motion in any form because I feel like this report is very hypothetical, like even Balfour, oh, let's expand to Balfour. Well, the Balfour water system isn't taking any more connections right now either. So I just struggle with it. I don't even know why we need a motion if we've got this report for internal use I just struggle with it. I like, why is it needed at all? Like this direction to staff, you have the report. I think there would be a lot of public opposition to any of this. So I can't support this. I just don't think it's needed. And so that's kind of where I stand on this. And what I see in this motion is that we're giving something that's non-binding, but now we're going to use it. So in fact, it becomes binding. So that's where I'm kind of seeing this not sitting right with me. So I can't support the motion, and that's where I stand. Thanks.
Thank you. Sorry, we already have a speakers list. This is going on. We're now going close to an hour. So if we're not comfortable, refer it. That's the point we're getting to. Davidoff, go ahead.
Yeah, I concur with what Director Graham said. We're not included in this report, but it's all about respecting our autonomy. And everything we do is the focus on everything we've been seeing here lately is all regionalization. We all got to have one agreement, one this, one that, for efficiency's sake. But Director Jackman made it very clear. We have people in our communities that really love where they live. Their rural quality of life is really important to them. And the key things, we've gone through 2 OCPs and 1 hectare minimum lot size. The vast majority of our community says that's the way it needs to be in Area I. So the key thing is that I agree with Director Graham. Making this somehow mandatory is really repulsive to me. So I completely don't support this motion.
Through the chair, the motion does not make anything mandatory. The motion prevents this from sitting on a shelf and never getting touched ever again. And that's hundreds of thousands of dollars down the drain. This directs staff, when they sit down and start talking about the next OCP process, whatever that is, you pull this report off the shelf and you start talking about the things that you want to bring to your community, such as fire smart standards and to develop urban area guidelines. Maybe that gets missed if we don't have this report sitting in front of us, and something that's really apropos and important these days. So all it does is keep it from sitting and collecting dust forever. It's not mandatory, and I don't find the motion repulsive.
I think it's important to note, I really appreciate Jackman's amendments to note the community aspect of this. This is data that gets ground truth via the community engagement process, and it is still very much community led, as the consultants and staff have indicated. If this was, we take the recommendations, put it in, and that's what's happening, that would be a mandatory approach that would not be palatable. So I feel like we've done the bridge that is best, but pop off for the final, or you're good?
Yeah, no, the final is, we've talked about the report, we've had some discussion. Now, I don't know what the exact recommendation is.
Yes.
Can we get an email, the recommendation?
Christine will read it to us. Yeah.
Before we vote on it?
Yeah, that the board receive the final report dated based on that project, and that the board directs staff to use the input.
To input the geospatial data from this project to complement community input and give consideration, and the rest of the motion is the same as it is written.
So it incorporates it's not receiving the recommendations, it's receiving the final report. The recommendation piece was removed, and that it's in conjunction with community input in a community planning process.
Good.
Okay. All those in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Those opposed? Davidoff, Graham. Okay, that motion passes.
Recorded chair, did you want to ask for any board?
Do you want to be recorded opposed, Graham and Davidoff?
Yes,
Yes,
please.
please. Okay, thank you. All right, we're gonna take our morning break. Huh?
Can I just make one comment?
Oh, yeah.
I'm just gonna say, thank you for the work. For the slow cam scenario, it's gonna actually be very helpful for active work that we all. Trying to end it up.
All right, we'll be back in 10 minutes.
This guy's good, I'm in my lap.
All right, we are back in action.
I'm as far over as I.
Okay. Directors, are we good? In the room? Thank you very much, goodish. I'm gonna make a comment just to get us back on a good track. That is, let's remember we're here to debate, discuss, review information, but we are not here to be disrespectful in our communication. Everybody that is involved in our work, whether we're an elected official or a staff member or a consultant, is here for the reasons of our communities having a good place to live. That's all I'm gonna say. Okay. So 6.2.3 age-friendly communities funding. We have a motion. Would someone like to move that motion? Bogo?
Motion.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
Grudgingly.
I feel we're gonna have Castlegar J today.
No, for a different reason, than what you think.
Yeah, I know. I've got Vandenberg and then Jack. Vandenberg, go ahead.
So I'm just going to express, and I've talked in this before. This is a grant that we're applying for to do some work and provide a regional online booking platform to do with rural mobility based out of Castlegar, but through our staff. That's the part that I struggle with. I mean, this is once again on my opinions around rural mobility is that it's not really specifically targeting rural. It seems to be really laid out nicely for the urban centers, which is fine. That's good. But that said, I think that this is an opportunity for Castlegar to administer because it's to their benefit. And maybe I'm wrong, and maybe I'm missing some of the details within the report. But I just wanted to express that, and it is coming through S-105. So it's money in, it's money out, but it's for the benefit of not my area type of thing. So I just wanted to express that.
Alex, do you want to go ahead? And I know I had a similar question and you were great over email to answer it. Can you fill in the blanks there for us?
Yeah, through the chair. So the regional booking platform and the project as a whole, this community service network that's forming, it's something that's happening between community services around the region. The original planning and partnership project engaged, I think, 9 of the community service societies, and then 5 of them went in together to kind of lead this research. And Castlegar has the most experience running a regional type transportation service. They've gone as far as bringing rides to Area D and to across the ferry and up Spokane Valley. And what they found is that it's really hard to run something like that as a singular organization. And it's not as effective in those rural communities. So you need to start networking and working with the smaller community service societies. And so Castlegar is as well a flow through for this funding to create some central resources like the booking platform that will be available and supporting these smaller community service societies as well. So it's really about creating resources that are available to all the communities.
Thank you. Jackman?
Yeah, thanks to the chair. I was just wondering how broad the scope of this might get. Maybe it's kind of outlined clear enough in the reports, but the obvious first is these volunteer driver programs. And so if you have 6 or 7 or 8 entities with volunteer drivers, you can book a driver, yes. But there's also things like the car share. There's more broad ride share where see people want to go to Kamloops, want to go to Calgary, whatever. Would they expand to that? And I've even began to wonder about things like, and again, being in Kamloops a lot lately, they have these little blue scooters everywhere now that come and go. They're very urban centric so far, know what their range is. How far did this expand? Is this just going to initially contain itself to volunteer drivers, or is this gonna open up to be much more broad?
Go ahead, Alex.
Through the chair, so right now the regional booking platform is looking at community service society programs, so volunteer driving programs. But also they have a number of shuttles, medical shuttles. Arrow and Spokane Lakes have a shuttle that goes out to Kootenay. And programs like that. The Rural Mobility Community Advisory Committee that has been engaging with transportation is looking across the board at all the transportation solutions. And I would love to see those solutions start to link, but we're taking baby steps.
Pretty broad scope.
Okay, thank you.
Good. We start.
All those in favor? Opposed? Recorded Vandenberg?
Please, thank you.
You got that, Christine? Yeah. Thank you. All right, 6.2.4 Local Conservation Fund. We've updated the policy.
I'll move that.
Thank you, Jackman. Do we have a second? Thank you. Woodward, discussion?
If we can.
Yes. You
Good, achieve good balance, I think is what we have. I think you're in the right document now.
Thanks, Rishab. There, all those in favor? Opposed? Carried, thank you. Finishing at transfer station, option 3 design.
Move that recommendation.
Thank you. Do we have a second? Thank you. Paragraph discussion. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Erickson Water System. Thank you, Tyranny. Second to Boone, discussion. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. 6.4.1, back to you, Director Papa.
I will move the recommendation that the board directs staff to prepare a service establishment bylaw for a literacy contribution service within the defined portion of Area H, Silverton, and
Do we have a second? Thank you. Director Gordon, go ahead.
Yep, I actually had a different recommendation to make. This one hasn't actually come to our shared services meeting for discussion, and I was hoping that we could discuss that in our shared services meeting before it came to board.
You could refer this to your shared services meeting if you'd like.
Yep, that's what my referral would be, but I see there's another motion on the table, so.
Well, you can refer a motion. You could refer this motion to your shared services.
Okay, I would like to refer this to the shared services meeting.
Is there a second on that referral?
I will second the referral, but I'll speak on propriety of referral.
Okay, can you just hold on? So I also have Pike on the list. So the motion to refer is on the table.
Okay.
So I want to go to Pike, and Pike, just noting this has to be on the referral aspect, not on the content of the motion. Go ahead.
Okay, no, I was gonna speak to the content.
Oh, I'm sorry. Are you good with it moving to your shared services meeting where you could discuss it as a group?
I'm good with that.
Okay.
So, actually, okay. I'm just thinking, if I could just say a few things. People from Silverton Area H already use the reading center with, it just spreads the cost more fairly. Like right now, New Denver taxpayers are covering something the wider area uses, and this is the cheapest.
Director Pike,
Yep.
I'm so sorry, but this is because we're in the referral process. You have to speak to just the process. But if it goes to your shared services, you can discuss it there.
Sounds good.
Okay, sorry about that.
No, that's fine.
I should pause before I saw you.
Okay, on propriety of referral, this issue was discussed before the Spokane Valley Services Committee was formed, and it was also discussed at the Spokane Valley Services Committee, but no real recommendation came forward from that committee, so that's why I support the referral.
Okay. So motion to refer to the Shared Services Spokane Valley Services Committee. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. So that gets referred. You got that, Christine? Yeah. Okay, 223 Recreation Facility in Custom Area K, Director Weatherhead.
Thank you. I would like to move this motion. If I have a seconder.
Yeah, I'll second for discussion.
Okay. It's on the floor. Or, you want to discuss it?
But I mean, I'm really happy with the staff report. Yeah, I think this is actually on both sides of this service for the village. This frees up their facility for them. Doesn't change anything, in terms of area K will still be paying, for this. And I feel respectfully toward my colleague, Director McLaren Coe, that when it is wanting to take this back to council for discussion at second reading with this report attached, will give them the full picture of what these changes mean.
Okay, no.
Thanks, Chair. I just had a question through to staff. If we, because we received the agenda pack, I received the agenda package late last week. I shared this with our council and staff Friday or Monday morning. They have asked to have some input on it, but my question is, if we, as Director Weatherhead mentions, if we pass this today and it goes to developed up to second reading, will they still have a chance for input to the point of?
Go ahead, Tom.
Yeah, respectfully through the chair, this report should probably be viewed as a problem statement. Just identifying what the issue is here, and then the solution to the issue would be the bylaw. We'd have to change things by bylaw to change the structure of the service. And really, before we do a bylaw or anybody agrees to a bylaw, absolutely, that's where we would see a lot of input from village staff about how this would work. Taking this report to village staff would not in any way impact the process, or taking it to the village council would not impact the process. The timeline would just continue. It's really when we start drafting the bylaw, that's when rubber starts to meet the road.
Go ahead. Yeah.
Okay, through the chair. So in staff's opinion, through the chair to Tom, do you think it makes more sense to refer this to next month's board meeting such that village council staff can review it? Or should we just go with the recommendation as is?
Respectfully through the chair, giving the village staff the problem statement at this point would allow them to formulate a solution that they see as workable, so that when we meet to discuss the bylaw and how we would change the service, they would have a really informed opinion, and that would make the process work a lot better. The whole goal is no surprises. Yeah. So in that regard, to provide them with the information up front and the contact, like they can read that report and then come to a regional district staff and say, well, how did you come to these things? What is the process you envision? It'll just make things smoother. I think it would be fine.
One last thing. Through the chair, if we were to refer it, if that's the will of the board, will that delay the overall timeline?
Respectfully through the chair, if the timeline is to have all these changes completed this year, no. But at that, there's still a few steps involved, right? We still have to do a bylaw. We have to do a bylaw amendment. Now, investigations with the local government inspector suggested that if everybody is amenable to the proposed solution at the end of the day, that can be done quickly through consent. If it comes to a vote or it comes to a public process, because it is not an amenable process, that's a much, much longer timeline. So best case scenario, absolutely finish this year. If there are hitches in the negotiation around the cusp leaving the service, then you're likely looking at a long process.
So I do see your letterhead. I just want to note that I want to clarify, because I think what Tom is indicating is that by moving this forward today, you're still able to do all the pieces that you would like to do. Referring it is like,
yes,
that was my understanding, is that you were saying that is actually a due process thing, is to do this, goes to council gets to review it, and then the bylaws written based on their input. That would have been the next step.
Respectfully through the chair, yes, they take this to village council, take it to village staff so that they're informed. The development of the bylaw will be a little bit unusual in that it'll be a real negotiation between the village of Cusp and the regional district. And again, anytime we enter into negotiations, better that everybody has all the information required and already walking into the room understanding sort of the problem statement and what we're trying to resolve.
Yeah. Are you good with lawyer?
I am good with my questions.
Okay.
Thank you.
Back to you, Letterhead.
Yeah, thank you. So would like to move it forward. I think that timelines are nicely in place at this point, and that delaying, I don't want to see a delay, because I don't want to see the fact that when it comes, we want to have that time for negotiation at that second reading point is, I think, really good timing for us to discuss what needs to be negotiated. Am I correct on that through the chair to staff?
Respectfully, through the chair, negotiation happens in the bylaw development process.
Yeah.
It's a question of when the board chooses to direct staff to begin that bylaw process. If we start this month or we start next month, I don't see it really impacting. What will have more impact is whether or not we can walk into the room in agreement. If there's agreement walking into the room and everybody agrees that this is what we are doing and this is the process out, it will be finished this year. If there isn't agreement, if one party wants something different to pull the cost out of the service, then it's going to take longer to resolve. The worst case scenario, and when I say worst, I don't mean bad, I just mean in terms of time, would be a notice review, which can take up to 3 years.
Yes, we don't.
Okay,
Thank you.
all those in favor?
No.
Oh, Cunningham, yes.
Yes, thank you. Just a quick question. It's really, is this a library service or a literary service?
This is a recreation service.
Well, so I'm wrong.
This was one behind.
Okay, good.
Okay.
But that one was corrected.
Okay.
I missed it.
All those in favor? Opposed? Thank you. 6.4.3, we have a motion there. David, I know you want to speak to it. Are we ready to move the motion and then we can speak to it?
I'm not moving it.
I'll move the recommendation.
Thank you, Jackman. Second, Hannah Graff. Go ahead, David.
Thank you, Chair. Nobody talked to me about removing these. I don't know if anybody talked to Director Popoff about removing his from the work plan, from the quarterly report. And so basically there's been no consultation with the area directors on this. I did email to the directors all the work. We've spent hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of hours of work on daycare, childcare in Area I. You have some samples of the work we've done. There's a comment in the report that speaks to that this isn't not within our jurisdiction. We're in the daycare business. We have a daycare that we run, built and operate in Castlegar, RDCK owned. So the key thing is that this was a huge surprise to see this. And I'd like to move referral to next month to allow.
Can I recommend that you move an amendment to remove the one you would like? The rest of them, I don't think are issues at this time, but you can amend that the motion 59023 be removed.
Yeah, I'd like to move referral of the two items impacting Area I specifically to next.
Can you just move removal of them? You would move the whole referral of the motion if you do that.
Okay, move removal of those two items then, please.
So the amendment is that 68319 and 79023 are removed from the motion. Is that amendment seconded?
I would like to add an amendment, if I may, to the chair.
Are you wanting to remove one as well?
Yes.
No. So that's all.
So that's all. Yes, go ahead.
So through the chair, we were repeatedly asked by this table to take a look at the quarterly report and look at items that weren't moving along, that were stale dated, and suggest removal of them. So we do have the prioritization matrix coming. I'm hoping to present it to the board in May for your comments. I might suggest that as an alternative, these items get referred to that matrix process once the board approves that policy. Because these are an example of items that policy is being developed to try to avoid items that are coming to the table that we don't have staff for, we don't have capacity for. It's not aligned with the strategic plan. The resources aren't there. And it might not make fiscal sense for the original district to take on these projects. And that's the direction that we were given as we've been talking through the change in the quarterly reporting and trying to make that document smaller. We did receive some suggestions directly from directors to remove projects from there, but we were asked to go through that and take a look at the items that could be removed and suggest them. So that's where this has come from, and I hope that Mike's report outlined that pretty clearly in terms of why these are being suggested to be removed from the work plan. I think the last thing I would say is, what is the benefit of referral? So rather than trying to debate and determine whether or not something should stay on or be removed from the work plan today, I'm wondering what information isn't here, what can staff do to try to improve that, and what can we do between now and next month to provide you more information to make a decision, particularly those directors that are impacted on the projects that are listed here.
So I'm just gonna reflect on the amendment that Davidoff that I recommended we do. I did not realize you had other directors who also wanted to pull, so that amendment was not seconded. The amendment's not on the floor. What's currently on the floor is the motion as written. The options Stuart has presented is refer this to the matrix process and or refer to next month. But if you do that, please indicate what it is you need. So I will go back to Davidoff, and if you can focus on the process piece on this, that would be great.
Well, part of the process is that where there's consultation, there's enlightenment, and we had no clue this was coming. I didn't have anybody contact me. Staff did not contact me.
What would you like to do, Director Davidoff?
Let me finish, Chair.
Respectfully, please.
I think we have been treated disrespectfully because consultation is the key. You don't say we're taking away something that is, we're in a daycare desert, for example, in the daycare issue in our area here. And the key thing is that this is such an emotional issue for our community because we've been trying so hard to get daycares into our community halls. And we were looking at all kinds of new options, like maybe the RDCK could lease space in a daycare, whatever. But the thing is, I'm not going to waste the time here of the board debating the merits of advancing with the childcare resolution. I sent the board some information about what we're doing, and I also sent the board staff reached out here in the last few minutes saying, what should we be considering? And I said, well, first of all, why didn't you consult with us? That's a pretty big deal. And then the second one was on the childcare one. We're in the childcare business. There's an agreement there that I sent to all the directors that signed. We're operating a childcare in Castlegar. So the key thing is I want this permanently removed. That's my motion. I want the childcare one permanently removed, and that's what I'm moving from.
Removed from what?
This list. That's the first one. And then I have a second motion after that. So if there's a seconder, then I'll speak to the childcare one.
We have three others that want to remove them, so we're not taking amendments at this point. It looks like the motion's not moving forward. I'm going to go to the other speakers, and we'll put you at for a third at the end of that. So I have Cunningham, go ahead.
Yes, thank you. Yes, I'd like the one referring to the Weymouth Cemetery removed. At the present time, the Weymouth Cemetery is under the control of 4 trustees, one of whom died before the cemetery ever became active a century and a half ago, and the other 3 obviously are dead now. How do you do anything with regards to land action? And we can't talk to the lands people. I have no way of doing anything, and that's why this thing was moved. I have a booklet of everybody who worked in the cemetery, even who died in the cemetery, and everything there that is, I believe, was forwarded. Did you have that information? Okay, in any case, the question is, what do we do so we have control of our own cemetery?
So on the motion, you would not like to see it removed from the quarterly report at this time?
No, I would like it to remain as an item for work, because, and also, even all I need is basically, where do we go from here? How do we tell the province?
Okay. That's good. We're focused on is the staying or not staying, not on the context of it. Pop off, I assume you're gonna say the same.
Similar, but a little bit different, if I may share, to the chair, is I was working with the former employee on this motion. And then the former employee left, and there was no further consultation where, what state that, motion was. So I'll be getting in contact with staff, find out where we're at before. So I'd like that stay in the plan currently.
And Graham.
Thank you. So through the chair, I guess just on this work plan, I'm just asking through the chair staff, is there a sunset clause? Like, do these items remain indefinitely, or at some point, is there a sunset clause that would bring them forward to be reviewed?
Go ahead, sir.
Through the chair, indefinitely, because it's really on staff capacity and the time to be able to get to it. And right now, because there's no board priority process, staff is determining the priority of motions like these.
Okay, thank you. I was just curious. Thank you.
Jackman, as the mover of the motion, I want to go back to you and just ask you two questions. One is you could withdraw it or you could refer to the matrix process.
I think I should withdraw this, because it sounds like a no action deal today.
Who seconded that?
Penny.
Do you support withdrawal?
Sure.
Okay, motion's removed. And I believe in the matrix process, we'll go through that.
Really tired.
We'll see them.
We'll see them again. Okay.
Okay.
Okay, no action on that motion. You got that, Christine? Yes. Okay. All right, 6.4.4 quarterly report. Mike is here. Jackson, go ahead.
So I have two observations, which I hope are constructive. Sometimes they may obsess over dates and times and stuff. Can't help it. Gonna make a little observation here. On one of these pages, we have a date assigned of 17th of July, 2025. And original completion date of 30th of June, 2025. 18 days before it was assigned. So, belaboring this just a little bit. We don't know some of the original assignment. So let's not throw a number in there. Let's leave it blank when we're uncertain. Certainly in this case where we completed it before we assigned it, leave it blank. The issue is obvious to me. It's a dog control one, and it wasn't assigned. It was reassigned. It became 2 or 3 other recommendations, which split between A, B, C, and H, and on and on. But can somebody please look at the dates? If we don't know when it's assigned, because that's critical to staff priority, that's going to be part of what we see on the matrix, evaluation matrix. Just anybody in the organization, look at the dates, and whether there's a question mark, take that questionable date out. The other thing, general comment, I've been trying to track this over the years when we used to have 20, 80, 60, and I know you can't all see this, but we would show things staying at 0 to 20% for a very long time. And then we'd start to gather information about approaching completion for more and more items to some future date to 100%, and some just drop off. I used to use that to show to me the world is not balanced or symmetrical. It takes time to start. And eventually, anybody planning their workload needs to say, are we predicting we're not going to get much done this year, but everything's going to be finished next year and the year after? And you've heard me say exactly that. You've been around the board table for a while. I've said exactly that. Wow, I see not a lot of completions this year, but a whole lot of completions next year. Like, wow, that's optimistic. It's all going to fall in place. So we can't use 2040 analysis, but absolutely somebody in the organization could say, how many senior managers are putting their completion as December 2027? And how many are saying we're going to get it done this year and keep pressing forward? Because one more concept, the interoperability, the 5-minute rule. Sometimes the reason you say it's going to take another year is you're waiting for something from another department. If you can show I can finish this now, if I just get the information from someone else, then those dates become real and meaningful. Right now I see the appearance of arbitrary dates, and that just gives me concern, overall concern. So there's an analysis here to be done that maybe would be a senior management team analysis that they can see if they're all on the same page.
Mike or Stuart, you don't have to respond. Good feedback. Good.
Yeah.
If you want to, Mike, please do so.
Yeah, and thank you for that. And yeah, as noted in the previous iteration of the quarterly report, that was the big part was a challenge, and I can only say that, you know, the efforts to provide better quality control and quality assurance on the information that goes in there are ongoing. I think we've made some big improvements, and to note too, the way the information is displayed was brought to the board prior to finalization of the report. And essentially what we're trying to do is to provide additional context rather than just sort of numerical values as to why things are moving and why they're not. So, you know, there's a lot of different factors that play into how the dates are displayed, but the original completion date and the original assignment date should be accurate. And again, we're continuing to make improvements there, and this board will be discussing over the course of time how we integrate the quarterly report and the information that it contains into different parts of our work, and how we better meet the needs of the world for the information that the world the organization is doing.
Thanks, Mike. Uli, you gotta add to that.
If I may, through the chair, and we need to recognize that many of these items are long-standing items to complete with a total unknown completion date. I have several items that I worked, some now finally completed, that were more than 15 years I'm working on. We need to recognize that some of these items you can't determine when we are completing it, because it depends on negotiations, on third-party action, and. So we put the next year's completion date in just to have something in. I don't think it would be welcome if I put 2030 in it. But we need to recognize that some of the information will always be not concise.
Thank you.
Follow-up is just put unknown when it's unknown. Just say unknown, and that flags it appropriately.
Matrix is gonna be so helpful. Thank you. Next item, the 6.4.5 occupational health and safety report. We do have AJ on the line. If there's any questions, oh, sorry, it's Dave. Not AJ, I thought it was him. Any questions on the report received? Okay. Fire services. North Shore and Castle are now interior trained. I'm very excited for that. It's a while, but I believe our process on training within the region has been very helpful. I'm happy to move that motion when someone like just seconded it. Thank you, Hanegraaff. Discussion. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. And Robson Fire Department rescue truck.
I'll move the motion as presented.
Thank you. Do we have a second? Look at you two working together.
Yeah, we're getting on.
We're gonna jump down every time.
Gotta play nice in the sand.
Can I just comment
Yes, you can.
briefly? I want to again express my thanks to both Grant Hume and the fire chief, Jeff Grant, for the work that they've done on this. Last month it was Udashenia, this month it's Robson, but I really appreciate that this has been managed in such a way that we don't have to go to referendum for borrowing, and you know, because that'll cost money and time and everything else too. So I appreciate the work they've done, the thought they've put into it, and the fact that we can get this dealt with within the 5 years without a referendum.
Good work.
Yeah.
All right, all those in favor? Opposed? Carried. 6.5.3, this is a municipal services agreement for Caslo. Alternate Director Lang, do you want to move that motion? You're muted.
I'll move the motion as presented.
Thank you, Director Lang. I'll second that. We did discuss this at our shared services meeting the other day as well, so it's helpful. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. I'm sorry, Director Lang, I didn't ask if you had any questions. You're good?
Yeah, I'm fine.
Thank you. Good to see you.
Thanks.
And Village of Silverton Fire Smart Director Gordon, do you want to move that one?
Yeah, I'll move the motion.
Thank you. Do we have a second? Thank you. Woodward, discussion?
Yes.
Papa?
Yeah, I do have a question. During the ready grants process, there was a registered society that wanted fire smarting within the society's boundaries, and it was rejected. Now, I don't know if this applies to,
Are they in the village of Silverton?
no, they're outside.
Then it's outside this motion.
No, but it's a question regarding fire smarting.
Yeah.
Villages are eligible and individual houses are eligible. Are societies that cover a certain area eligible?
You can contact the wildfire smart coordinator for that one. It's just outside this motion. This is Great Village of
Thank you.
Silverton.
Yeah, I understand.
And yes, they likely would be. Sorry, Nora turned on your camera. Do you want to answer the question, Nora? Are societies eligible for fire smart assessments?
Through the chair, we provide fire smart assessments to individual properties and structures. So if there was a society that owned a structure that was requesting like an ignition zone assessment for that structure, that's something that we could support under a fire smart program, but not in terms of, say, the society delivering the program. If that's the question.
So perhaps follow up directly with Nora.
Thank you for that information. I'll follow up with the society. I'll get them to follow up with Nora.
Great.
Thank you.
Thanks, Nora. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Whitewater Ski Resort, you have a result of a service case. Go ahead, Graham.
Thank you. So through the chair, thank you to the staff for getting this done and for doing this work. And I do understand why the RDCK cannot provide fire service to Whitewater, although it is an important, I think, asset to the whole region. And I think it's disappointing. So I do have a couple of questions to the staff. The first one would be, is there any coverage on the road to Whitewater? Is like, just for clarity, is there any fire service coverage on the road?
Oh, you were in the room. I was looking on the solution. Go ahead. Sorry. Dan's in the room and it surprised me. Go ahead, Dan.
Thank you through the chair. In terms of fire services or fire suppression, no, there is road rescue 1 kilometer up the Weimer or the Whitewater Road through Weimer Fire Department.
Do you have more questions?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Supplemental. This is very disappointing. So through the chair to staff, like, is there any way that the regional district can provide support to the Whitewater Ski Resort should they decide to come up with like a private water service? Is there anything we can do?
Thank you through the chair. Just clarifying that, so if they had more water at the ski resort, is that what the director's asking?
Go ahead, Graham.
Yeah, to elaborate would be things like could we let them know that there was apparatus that was expiring that they could buy? Could they have staff that could come into training for fire services? Like, is there anything we can do as the regional district to assist with helping the way, like, they're trying to expand and this is an important asset to the area. And I'm just thinking, is there anything the regional district can do to support them with like fire services training, fire services like PPE, anything like that? Like, is there any options for them?
Through the chair, I think the RDCK Fire Services recognize the same as the director, is that it is an important asset to the regional district and to the residents, and we could explore, once they get to that stage, we could explore how we could better, or how we could work and partner and support them.
Final question, if I may, like, how would we do that? Like, do I, as the director, reach out to the management or would the staff reach out to the management at Whitewater? Like, how can we move something forward?
Through the chair, building relationship, if they do end up having their own fire service up there, that it would be something that we could be in conversation with. They have my name, they have my phone number. I'm happy to coordinate that with them directly. And see, it depends what they're going to be looking for.
I'd say you recommend the management reaches out to Dan and they can talk about all the different options.
Thank you, Chair. So is that a direction to staff or do I make a motion? Like, how do I do something here?
You don't need a motion. You can just let them know, please, assuming they've seen the report, you can communicate with staff over other options.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Cunningham, go ahead.
No, that's fine. Yeah, the thing is, of course, with what's proposed probably won't give them an insurance reduction. And I think that besides fire protection, the other part of fire protection is insurance protection. I don't have an answer for that, but I know that it's outside Wymer's range, both not in our area, significantly not in our area, so we can't really do anything in the middle.
Okay. Well, I do trust staff to look at all options and figure out if there's other support, such as, things that sell. We've sold some old equipment to fire response only areas. So there are options and staff will work with them to explore what those are, I believe is Dan says that's good. Okay, thank you. Grants, what time is it? Okay, discretionary grants. Would someone like to move that motion, please? Thank you. Moved and seconded. Discussion. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Community development. I'd like to move that. Thank you. Woodward, Pendergraft, discussion. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. An amendment for Creston Valley Minor Baseball Association. Tierney or DeBoon, sorry, DeBoon pointed at you. Who wants to move it? Moved, seconded, discussion. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Chair and CEO reports. So first, thank you, Vice Chair McConaughey for covering last month. I was in Spain with the sun and it's way warmer than here, but also a lot more people. It was very fun and exciting. Since my return, I have had several media inquiries. I may have mentioned them earlier. Several on the inland ferries, the power, Sandon's, the letter we wrote for Silversmith. I've had 2 media interviews on that one. So those should be out there somewhere. I believe one of them's in print or they're all in print. I haven't actually tracked them, but those were all the media interviews I did. And I went back when I do those, I asked Christine, thank you, Christine. She's always resending me letters because we send a lot of letters out so that I make sure I'm reflecting the board. I also rewatched the recording from when we approved those and Director Lund and I directed some of those media inquiries your way in the village based on your history with power production or attempts to. So that was that. And I had a meeting with the MLA, but that was Esther Doctor. So although I did mention the ferries a few times. Any questions for me? We are going to the Chair CAO forum next week. So we leave right after AKBLG. Stuart and I will be in Victoria for 3 days meeting with other chairs and CAOs. And it's always a good connection to talk to them. So I enjoy that one quite a bit. Any questions for me? Over to you, CAO.
For the chair, I didn't have anything other than the Chair CAO form I was going to mention, so.
Oh, Rick is on there. Sorry.
Totally.
Okay. All right. All right, these are our letters of support. Is this when we do both? This is also director's verbal reports, aren't they, at the end? Oh, 9.4 is where those letters should be. That's what's confusing me. That's okay. Those letters are received for your information. Rural Affairs Committee, go ahead, Director Blackman.
Hey, thank you. So our rural meeting was a little different from normal because we had no delegations on land use applications or non-compliance issues. We did have staff reports on some somewhat meaty topics, and one of them ended up with a recommendation to this board where we use the word municipal. Because of that, we have staffs included a committee report from April 15th from Dana Hawkins about the Kootenay Lake Forest Landscape Plan and RDCK participation. So what I'm going to propose in just a few seconds, sort of 3 things need to happen. We are looking to request attendance at some provincial and Indigenous government sessions. Similar to what staff might have been invited to at a political level. Not through the whole process, just to learn a bit at the beginning. We would then need a reply from the province, and if we get a favorable reply from the province, yes, that's what we're looking for in terms of input. Then later, we would need to figure out who would be maybe best to add to that advisory to sit and listen and understand this process. Currently, from what we can glean, our staff, 3 of our staff members have been in one of these meetings discussing this Kootenay Lake Forest Landscape Plan, which is in a way somewhere between a Forest Stewardship Plan and almost a higher level plan in my mind. City Nelson staff have been engaged, and understanding from Mayor DeBoon, from Director DeBoon, that so has Creston. 2 other municipalities are within this catchment timber supply area in Kootenay Lake, that of course is Castle and Selma. That's the background context. Question being, should we have a small municipality rep more engaged because they may have a different view? Have they been invited yet? We don't know. So given that little bit of background, which is not going to answer all the questions, I would like to move the recommendation in front of us, noting that we're requesting attendance, etc., as it reads, and we'll see what happens. I would move this recommendation.
Second, thank you. And just to clarify, what we're doing here is we're going to have staff reach out to them to determine, can we appoint 2 to this committee? We're not actually appointing 2 until we've determined that request. Okay, great. Discussion.
If I can, the intervening waiting period to get any reply from the province would certainly allow all municipal directors to learn more, and Dan Hawkins is right up to speed on what's going on with this in our planning staff.
And we do know the information is going to municipal staff as well. I do know that, just speaking to some municipals, so. All right, all those in favor? Opposed? Carried, thank you.
That's the shortest we're having.
Yeah, ever.
All right, Director Popoff, you have a motion, go ahead.
Yeah, I sure do. I was hoping that this motion would be after public comments, because I have 2 members of Area H who are sitting there waiting to comment on this motion, but I will move the motion.
You can table it till later if you would like, you don't have to move it right now.
Okay, can I table it till after public time?
You could table it until, yeah, that's fine. You'd like to do that.
Okay.
That's not a motion, is it?
Yeah.
Oh,
Reordering the agenda.
It's essentially reordering the agenda.
all those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Move to. Just noting that after public time might be after lunch as well. Depending on how long it is. Director Cunningham, you have a motion, would you like to move it?
Still writing notes from the last one. Okay, yes. The motion or the recommendation is written for watersheds. I need to let me read the whole thing out.
You could read the therefore be it resolved.
Okay, thank you. Therefore be resolved that the regional district of Central Kootenay support the community by recommending to the province that they designate these watersheds as an ecological reserve protected area for future generation to enjoy and to protect the ecological diversity in these critical watersheds.
Do we have a second? Thank you, Hanegraaff. Discussion? It was, I believe, well presented at public time, and I've seen the correspondence. Lockwood, go ahead.
Thank you. My concern with one of them, Lemon, you have to actually cross private property to get to that. So how is that presented?
Well, this is just to recognize the watersheds. It's not to increase public access or make it a park. It's just to designate them for protection.
Right.
It's an advocacy piece on that front. Grant. They wouldn't be reflecting the private property, it'd be the watersheds around it. Graham, go ahead.
Thank you through the chair. I just have a question about this in terms, like, is this similar to like a reserve, like a section 16 reserve? And once it is designated, like, how is that designation made available? Is it on the RDCK mapping system? Is it on the IMAP mapping system? just question about what this is that we're asking for.
Would be a provincial designation. It wouldn't be an RDCK. It's an advocacy to the province to use their tools, I believe under the Water Sustainability Act, to designate them for ecological protection.
The chair is correct. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, so
I got several. Who was next? Vandenberg and then Tierney.
thank you, the chair. I find this rather interesting. I'm interested to understand how this may, how does this thing roll forward? This is a RDCK supporting the community by recommending to the province an ecological reserve. So kind of what does that process look like? Is there been adequate public engagement when you define what community is? It's quite interesting. I'm not real familiar with this maneuver.
It would be an advocacy letter that comes from our board to the province, and then it's a provincial process. We're just saying we support the request from the community, which I believe presented at a public time and has sent several letters to us previously, indicating they would like it protected for its ecological values. So it's just advocating to the province that we support their efforts.
And if I may,
Yeah.
and that sounds great. I'm very intrigued on this, but how do we know that the public really had a proper engagement to suggest this is what they're going to do? Because that it doesn't suggest that here.
There was Director Cunningham, I know that there was previous correspondences I was copied on and I sent to you, so.
And I know I'm quite familiar with the area, and the Rosebud Lake area, by the way, has zoning in place. And so it's all the residents of Rosebud Lake they're not at the lake because the lake is a protected area, but on the way to the lake, about the 3 mile road, are all concerned about protection of watersheds, because when they had a fire in the area across the road, the highway some years ago, it turned out that the water supply for the whole area was drained and wells up dry and everything. So it's really important to maintain the water table content, and by designated as a protective area, the water table will stay where it should be.
So the question on community engagement was reflected through various correspondences Director Cunningham received, and then the board received at public time last month. And so it's just supporting the community's request.
The community wants to do this. The entire community wants to do this. There's not one person in their opposition that I'm aware of. And it seems like a reasonable kind of thing to do, because if no kind of action is taken, we will continue to see difficulties, especially with climate change and in their water supply.
Thank you. Go ahead, Vandenberg, and then I go to Tierney.
And I apologize in advance, but this is very intriguing because I'm thinking about my Goat River watershed, and if it's just a matter of collecting a few letters and then moving that into a reserve for protection. But I would say that it must be more of a document, like a petition perhaps, that has some clarity around the community component of it. And so I'm thinking in terms of what is the opportunity for me in my backyard for 1 or 2 things. And so just understanding this process that's why I'm asking these questions.
Yeah, no problem. So in terms of like Goat River, you're going through a water sustainability planning process. That's much more conducive to your consideration. So it's actually much more verbose than what Director Cunningham's requesting here. Because it's the province's process, it would be up to them to fact check all of that. We're supporting what the community has brought forward to us, hand it over to the province saying, yeah, go and assess this. That's my understanding of the process.
And I'll apologize, I should have said Duck Creek is what I meant.
Oh, Duck, okay, sorry.
Okay, a little bit different,
Okay.
but same kind of concerns.
Yeah.
It's kind of intriguing that this is something, a tool in the toolbox.
There's quite a few tools. It's just which ones do we pick up?
Quite rusty.
Tierney, go ahead.
Yeah, just to make everyone aware, ecological reserves is a classification of protected areas through the Ministry of Environment and Parks, Regional Director of the Kootenays for that ministry, Tennessee Trent, lives in Nelson here, and I've actually had conversations with them about an area that I think they should be considering. They didn't have a planner to be able to go out and and form their own opinion. But that planner was being, that position was being filled several months ago. So this is the advocacy piece that would basically go to the regional director, who would assign it to a staff member, the planner, to go and see whether this fits the criteria of ecological reserve to be considered by the ministry. Yeah.
Thanks, Director Tierney. Friendly reminder, you got quite the background in parks. We forgot about that. Very helpful. Lockwood, over to you.
And thank you, Director Tierney, because there's a lot of information that you unpacked there that I don't think that the board is aware of. How might, and it's not that I'm not for protecting watersheds, but as Director Vandenberg had talked about, is there's multiple watersheds. And what is the process that the director of that area just brings a motion forward? Because I understand Rosebud, there's a whole community that is around that, but when it comes to Lemon Lake Creek, there's not as many. So is it that those letters, I only saw one in here from one resident at Rosebud. So I'm wondering, is there something that the community of a whole can actually obtain the information that is being directed to any director?
A director is welcome to put a motion on this agenda to recommend various advocacy pieces. And you could do them for watersheds, you could do them for ecological reserves, it's advocacy. So we can full advocacy when we feel it's appropriate for our area.
Supplementary, if I may, is that it's just been spoken that there's been lots of letters written. So how does anybody obtain that kind of information? If there's been lots of letters, not just on this, but on any, if there's advocacy, if that's what's been, how does people learn about that kind of stuff? I just learned about this and I live in the area through this, through.
I think you're asking different questions. First of all, this board as a local government board does extensive amounts of advocacy on all sorts of topics. And so that is an endless process. The entities we're advocating to, whether or not they respond and make input, is completely out of our control. In terms of community engagement, going to a director saying, please advocate for us. That's the process that's occurred here. It's a director's come forward saying, and I know it came up public time because I reviewed the video. And I received several correspondences asking for this to be on our agenda quite a while ago. And so I'm aware that the community's been asking for this. There's tons of advocacy as directors that maybe never make it to this table, but when it makes it to the table, you're trusting that the director for that area has said, I'm hearing lots from my residents. I would like to advocate for this. Okay, all those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Okay, 10 minutes. Let's do consent agenda. Is there anything that needs to be pulled for information discussion? Okay, 9.4 verbal reports. We're not going to do verbal reports in 10 minutes. Do you want to table these till after lunch or do you want to refer these to next month? Vandenberg.
Refer.
To which part? Next month?
Next month.
Do we have a second? That's been referred to next month on referral.
You know, we referred last month to this one. Now we're referring this month to next month.
I think it's the volume of material we have and can we handle it? Last week we got it super early.
There's always a reason.
So you can say no to referral if you'd like, and we'll address it after lunch.
Okay.
All those in favor of referral to next month? One, don't be shy. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I'm gonna say 11, 12, because we do have quite a bit more to do. Those opposed. Panagraph's opposed. Jacqueline opposed. Weatherhead's opposed. Boone's opposed. Motion passes.
Why bother?
Can we fit the ones who are opposed before lunch?
let's go to we'll make it to the end of the meeting and maybe we do a half and half thing. Okay. Okay, heard. So with that, I am going to go to public time. I'll start with those online. If there's anyone, we do have a few in the room, but let's start. Is there anyone online who has a question for us? You're welcome to unmute and ask your question. Okay, not seeing any. We'll go to the room. Hi, Mike.
Hi, I'd like to speak about one thing and have one question. Is that okay?
Yes, please do.
So Walter Popoff, Director Popoff has a motion he's gonna put forward, and I'm in Barry H resident, my Catherine, Spokane Park. And I'd like to, I know it's strange for me with Walter, but I'd like to support his motion. So for the board, please, so you know, area H residents are on this side. Okay. And I do actually have a question. I just, when I was scrolling through the agenda, I happened to see all the checks, and I was at last year's budget meetings. And I noticed there's 5 payments, and I remember like $60,000 for a web project, and it's a problem with Microsoft, something with Microsoft licensing. But I don't remember an almost $250,000 expense approval for a company called Inside Canada. And I'm just curious what that's all gonna be give for that.
Yep. I don't know if he's on the, he is on the line. Yep, are you, look at that, unmuted, listening. Go ahead, Yep, did you hear the question?
Yeah, through the chair, yes, I did. So that is for all of our Microsoft licensing. The bulk of that is for Microsoft 365, which is the for the desktop applications, Teams, SharePoint, Word, Excel, email licensing. And then that's probably about 80% of it. And the other 20% is for the Microsoft licensing for our data center, which is primarily Microsoft server licensing. And of note, the AP report also includes GST. So the GST we get back, so that the number is about 7%. Actual expense is about 7% less than that.
Thank you very much. So we know for next time, it's probably gonna be the same company.
That's the licensing company, yeah.
Yeah, okay, thank you very much.
Thanks, Mike. We have another member of the public. Did you have a question or comment for us?
No, I'm within.
Okay. Good to have you.
Thanks.
And I'll just go back online. I didn't know if anyone, we did start a little early. Is there anyone from the public or the media that had a question for us? You're welcome to unmute. All right, not seeing any. How about we go to your motion, Director Popoff? We can lift it from the table. Sure. That's a motion, lift it from the table.
So if you should reorder the agenda for your motion, so it's up now on the agenda.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead, Director Popoff.
Okay, well, thank you, Chair. I'd like to move that the following motion, 67125, that the board directs staff to initiate a sub-regional official community plan update for areas F, H, J, and K, and staff to initiate the Area D community planning, and that these projects be top priority for the planning department's work and be reconsidered.
Sorry, I'm just reading that motion out. I don't think is that the right motion? Because we already moved that motion.
He's moving reconsideration.
I'm asking to reconsider that motion.
If I could, Chair.
Yeah.
So through the chair, Director Popoff contacted me about this, and it's around process. He's looking to make an amendment to this motion. The motion has already been passed at a previous meeting. So he can't just come in and make an amendment to a motion that's passed. So he has to ask for the board to reconsider the motion first. If reconsideration passes, it is then on the floor again, as it is written. And then Director Popoff could, if he wishes, move an amendment for the board's consideration. So reconsideration needs to be voted on first, needs to be moved by someone who voted in the majority. So if the motion passed, you had to have voted in favor. If the motion failed, you would have had to vote against. The Director Popoff voted in favor of the original motion, so he can move consideration. It is debatable. It's majority. It's not 2/3. It's majority.
For reconsideration.
For reconsideration.
Okay. So for the first part is, are we reconsidering this?
So
All
we have
those,
to second Director Paul.
Yeah.
So
Oh,
I-
second.
I did.
Oh,
yeah,
sorry,
it's on the
sorry.
floor. So we're debating reconsideration at this time. Do you debate reconsideration?
So if you want me to speak,
I'm asking if that's what we do process wise. Yes,
Yes, reconsideration is coming.
on reconsideration, go ahead.
okay, well, thank you. To remove Area H North from sub-regional official plan update for areas F, J, and K for the following reasons. And I did attend one of their planning meetings, and those other three directors are fully aware of the direction that I'm taking with this reconsideration. Each of the three areas, F, J, and K, have more in common with each other than Area H. The specific differences between Area H North OCP and Area F, J, and K are: areas F, J, and K have OCPs that cover all their areas, and they already have zoning in place. Area H North OCP covers only the northern portion of Area H, and there is no zone. We also have to consider if and when Area H South residents decide to have an OCP, how are we going to bring them into the planning process? Having a separate OCP in Area H North would be far easier for planning to bring them into the southern portion of the planning process, if and when they decide they want to do that.
So you're asking for reconsideration to have H removed from.
Yes, and if you allow me to.
Well, you're talking to the motion. We haven't put the reconsideration back on the floor, so you just want to focus on why are you asking to reconsider it?
That's right, that's what I'm focusing on.
So you've done that. We'll vote on if we're gonna reconsider it, and then you can go to what you want.
I've got a bunch of more reasons why we should reconsider, if I may.
Please focus on reconsideration.
Okay. So there is a petition to address planning and zoning at Claymore Junction. That's the other difference. Area H North has more in common with three villages of Spokane, Silverton, and New Denver than areas F, J, and K. A review of the Area H North OCP would have to consider the OCPs of the three villages. We have Spokane Lake in common. The happenings of Spokane Lake were more than likely have an impact on the villages and Spokane Lake. So I would like to ask the directors for their support for my motion to reconsider the board resolution. If reconsider is approved, I will move an amendment to remove Area H.
Thank you. All those in favor of reconsideration? We're not talking to the content of the motion. We're talking about, are we gonna put the motion back on the floor? Is your question to the process or the content of the motion?
To the process or the
Ask your
question is to the explanation that I've just heard. And it's.
So if we want to put the motion on the floor, if we're gonna discuss the motion, and that's what we're doing right now. Do you want the motion back on the floor?
I just have a simple question.
Okay,
How does this affect the priority in which we've already worked to?
so let's get the motion on the floor and then we'll discuss that.
Thank you.
Okay, all those in favor of getting the motion back on the floor, which is reconsideration?
Yes.
Anybody opposed? Now would you like to, so the motion's back on the floor?
Mr. Chair, you now have a motion on the floor.
Okay, now with the motion on the floor, you've made your case. Vandenberg, your question, go ahead. Sorry.
Chair, the motion's on the floor, so you're debating the original motion.
Yes.
The purpose of the reconsideration was for Director Popoff to move an amendment from a process perspective. I might suggest that amendment be moved because that will be the key of the debate. You've already debated this motion.
Right.
Yeah.
Passed it previously. So you'd want Director Popoff's amendment, which you would then debate.
Your amendment, please.
And I'm prepared to move my amendment. And I believe Christine has a copy of that amendment. That the board directs staff to initiate a sub-regional official community plan update for areas F, J, and K. And staff to initiate the Area D community planning and Area H North official community plan update. And these projects be top priority for the planning department work plan amendment.
Okay, so you're essentially moving H from the beginning and adding community planning for North Area H at the end. Okay.
I'll second it.
So that amendment is on the floor. That's what we're debating. Let's focus on H. You got it, Christine? Okay. Vandenberg, to your question.
Yeah, so we have, as a group, discussed the priorities and come to an agreement. I respect the directors wanting to reprioritize that is by the sounds of it. My question is, how does that affect what we've already started? It's not. So I will just be quiet right now. Thank you very much.
Jackman, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. So maybe in anticipation, after rural committee yesterday, I did sit with planning manager Nelson White. We did have a bit of a conversation about a few issues. Included in that conversation though was I think next month is a month where we really want to see their multi-year program for doing all of these OCP updates. And I can anticipate that whoever says whatever today, you may want to see his updated overall work plan before finalizing any amendments to this. I mean, we could vote and do what Director Popoff wants now, blindly not knowing how it impacts the work plan. Or maybe this will be referred to next month till after staff can at least give us what they think they were given as direction last summer. And working on that direction. Also knowing that waiting in the wings is another approach, now breaking out another separate OCP review. So just background information that Manager White is going to come back to rural next month with a more broad multi-year planning work plan for exactly these OCP reviews.
I just want to note, as CAO noted, we already debated this. I would like to support Area H and have that inputted into what we get presented as the work plan next month. I don't want us to go back over all the other areas' work. And so if Area H is pivoting, I'm happy to support that and then have that be the work plan that's presented next month, not what it may have been, but now it's going to change. That sounds like it'll back it up. So with that, I have Weatherhead on Area H. If we can just focus on that, not on your own planning, because that's still in the queue. Go ahead.
Absolutely. Thank you. I just, through the chair, I just, having maybe to Stuart, taking Area H out of the sub-regional is one thing, but then adding it to it seems separate to then adding that other component of community planning to Area D and how might that impact the work plan. That was basically what my question was. How does that impact that lining up of all those things that we debated? Is it more work, more time doing just that? Or, I mean, removal doesn't take that, I felt, but adding it elsewhere to community planning.
Yeah, to the chair, I imagine it would be slightly more work, the way the amendment is written, simply because the efficiency of bringing Area H into the sub-regional one, you're doing, the same work at the same time versus a separate project specifically for H North. So yes, it's probably a little bit more work for planning staff to do it this way. I think it's point taken from Director Jackman where if you consider the sub-regional one as a project, and then you had Area D, and then you're moving the rest of the way down the work plan. Now you've got sub-regional, Area D, Area H, and then going down there. So it might behoove you to talk about the prioritization. That being said, you could pass the amendment or debate the amendment in favor of it. You could agree on the amended motion and then refer that motion after it's been amended to a future meeting in order to determine the prioritization or prioritization now that H has been separated.
Right, thank you.
I think it's important to note though, again, we have a work plan coming forward next month and that's where this would be embedded. We would have it for next month. And then at that time, if we're like, that's too much work, we want to do it differently. That's when I'd recommend we debate it. I think we need to give H the opportunity to say, this is what we'd like. Let's see what the work plan looks like.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Okay. David off.
Thank you, Chair. So here we are. You have the director of a community of almost 5,000 people requesting to be removed from this start of a process for very valid reasons. And what we're talking about is work plan efficiency. What about local autonomy of a community of over almost 5,000 people? So this is.
I believe we're in support of this.
Chair, I'm in favor of the amendment.
Great.
And I just would like to, I have 2 minutes, right?
No, not really.
I challenge the chair.
You're in favor of it, speak in favor of it.
I am speaking in favor and I'm giving the reasons, Chair. So this is an example of loss of local autonomy. And you have a regional district director requesting something at the beginning of a process. The second reason is here we are. We haven't even implemented anything yet. But this is getting into a joint planning process. How about getting out of a joint planning process? We did it in Area I and J. The director for Area J did not want to go, didn't want to joint, wanted their own. Second, you had some public speak today. I can just imagine what the director is receiving in terms of lumping everything into one OCP. And the irreversibility of once this is done is impossible, potentially impossible. So I totally support the director's autonomous motion to do what's best for his 5,000 residents. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Paragraph.
Yep, as one of the others in this group, I support the director's motion to remove Area H from the group. I don't see any value in moving forward when one of the participants doesn't want to participate, essentially. And so for that reason alone, I will support this.
Okay, great. Sounds like you have support. Good.
Thank you. I'd like to sum up what you said. Planning will come back with a different plan.
Right.
Thank you.
All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you very much.
Motion was amended.
Motion as amended, those in favor? Opposed? Carried, thank you.
Sorry, what did we just do?
Yeah, I don't.
So
How's the
the
amendment?
motion went back on the floor, it was amended, we approved the amendment, we needed to approve the motion as amended.
Okay.
So there's three things, reconsideration, okay.
No, that's fine, we just had a
Okay.
malfunction at the junction here when you were speaking, so. we're just clear.
Dysfunction junction.
Okay, we're on lunch, see you in an hour.
At 1 or 12?
So, well.
At 1. At 1.
1 o'clock.
Oh, you're so kind. Cheryl.
Okay, folks. Those on the line who are not directors or staff, we are gonna move into in-camera now, so we're gonna ask them to leave. That would be Brenton, observer, public observer, Rob, I believe is Rob Lang. And then all those who are to stay in the meeting, if you can turn your cameras on, please.
It's a walk.
Director Lang, if you can mute your computer, thank you. Yeah, 1 second. We're just waiting for Mario to come back in, and then we'll be back at item.
Can
Can you recess the closed meeting, please?
So
So move, second in discussion. Thank you. All those in favor, opposed? Carried. Let's just see if Mario's back.
Mario's back.
Thank you. Hello, Daryl. Hello, observers. Welcome back, and we will now go to your presentation in our open meeting.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you for having me again this year. I'm happy to be presenting the financial statements for the Regional District of Central Kootenay for the year ended December 31st, 2025, and the audit report for it. So I have in your agenda package, you will have a full copy of the financial statements. But I have prepared a PowerPoint to make it easier for everybody to follow along on the statements themselves. So before we start on the actual financial results, just want to pause and say that I'm pleased to report that we will be issuing a clean audit opinion again this year. So these financial statements do present fairly the results for the Regional District of Central Kootenay for the year ended December 31st, 2025. And so when we go through and look at the results, excuse me, we'll start on the statement of financial position. So a snapshot of all of your assets and liabilities at the end of the year. And so I've kind of broken it down to make it easier to understand, because being a regional district, there's a lot of complexities to it in terms of understanding what is your assets and liabilities versus, for example, your member municipalities. So we take our total financial assets, including member municipal debt on there. We see that it increased by $6 million from 72 million up to $78 million. And if we take the liabilities and deduct that from there, excluding your asset retirement obligations, which, as an example, is going to be landfills that you have to close 60 years from now that we have tracked the costs on, and we deduct our MFA debt, which is a mortgage that will be paid off over time, we come to our net financial asset position of $61 million. Last year, you were at $56.7 million. So that's really, and we'll show your reserve funds and surplus at the end, that's really what you have in terms of your surpluses and reserves to fund future capital and to operate the regional district. Now, if we deduct the member municipal debt, and we deduct our asset retirement obligations, we come to that net debt number that's on your financial statements that shows you in a deficit of $6 million, better than just under $10 million last year. But I want to highlight the difference between what your true $61 million is versus that $6 million deficit, because it's not really that you have a deficit. It's assuming that number that you're going to pay off all of your debt in one year, and that you're going to close all your landfills and pay for the closure costs in 1 year. So just wanted to highlight that that's why it's there. The 61 million doesn't appear on the statements, but I think it's the more important number for the board to understand. When we move to the statement of operations and we take a look at your revenues and expenses, starting at the revenues, total revenues came in at $79.8 million versus a budget of $73 million. As you can see, taxation very tight to budget, user fees slightly exceeded budget. But when we look at government grants, we're slightly favorable to budget. That's just timing of when grants came in, when construction on capital projects happened. So nothing really to worry about, and seeing that you were over in a good way on that. Community Works Fund, management budgets based on what they think they're going to use from Community Works, but that's not what is received in the year. And so again, that's a difference between how you need to budget under the Community Charter and Local Government Act versus the public sector accounting standards. So overall, very close to revenue in that manner. And when we look at the $79.8 million, this just breaks down the buckets that you have, and you can see obviously taxation, no surprise, is your biggest source of revenue. When we look at your expenses, this slide is a little bit tough to understand because, on the surface, your expenses came in at 72.7 million versus a budget of 66 million, which makes us think we're over budget. What happened? But in reality, in your budget, we don't include amortization of your capital projects because that's a non-cash item and it's not being funded. But that number is included in your actual results. And so if we were to take that out of your actual results, your total expenses would have been $65.7 million versus a budget of $66.1 million. And we can see that you, again, very tight to your budget in terms of how you were operating. So just wanted to highlight that. When we see these overages, they aren't truly overages. It's just how the budget has to be prepared versus how these statements have to be prepared. Now, when we bring it all together and we come into it, I want to just pause on your surplus for the year. And this is where I want to remind everybody that the way that you have to present these financial statements does not align with how the Local Government Act and the Community Charter requires your budget to be presented. And that is For all municipalities and regional districts in British Columbia, they have that. So I prepared this slide to allow you to see how you actually did against your budget. These numbers come from the statements, but you won't see this table anywhere in the statements. So the plan was an accounting surplus of just under $7 million. And then you would have spent $22 million, almost $23 million on capital projects, which would have left you at a deficit of $15.9 million. You would have also had another $4.1 million in debt repayments budgeted. And then you would have funded that deficit and those debt repayments by borrowing $6 million for capital projects and taking from your reserve, drawing on your reserves by $14 million. And that's how we got to that zero budget that you approved last year. In actual fact, you came in at $7.1 million. You spent $10.2 million on capital projects. We add back the depreciation because it's not an apples to apples comparison. And so you actually had a surplus that you ended up with of $3.9 million. You repaid debt of $4 million, very close to your budget. And then because the capital projects didn't all go forward, you only had to borrow $2.8 million. And then you transferred into your reserves $4.7 million, which brings us to a deficit of $2 million. But it's not that you really had a deficit, it's that you took $4.7 million of unrestricted funds and put restrictions on it. So management has to come back to the board through the budgeting process to access those funds. So it's not that you had that deficit, it's that it's just now management is restricted on what we have, and I'll show you where your reserve balances are in the next couple slides. And so continuing on that path, your total accumulated surplus is $123 million. And when we look at that number, what that number represents is not only the cash, but that you have, but the equity and tangible capital assets. The equity and tangible capital assets represents all the money that you've historically spent since the beginning of time on your capital projects, less what you owe on it, less depreciation, and less any obligations to remediate any properties, being your asset retirement obligations. That's $61 million. If we take that out, we're left with almost $52 million in reserves and almost $10 million in unrestricted, which ties pretty close to that $61 million net financial asset position that I talked about on the first slide with your statement of financial position. And so with that, it's important to remember that of that $61 million, just under $52 million of it has been restricted by management, or been restricted where management needs to go to the board for approval to access those funds. And there's $9.8 million that is there that management has to execute on the approved budget that they have. Overall, when we look at it, still in a fairly stable state. And when we talk about that increase that you have in your financial position, it's important to remember that that was generated as a result of capital projects that, because of timing, may not have gone forward. So it's not that you have additional money for new projects. That money will be spent on the approved projects that they were. It's just timing difference in terms of when it's going to be, because at December 31st, we cut off and we start a new year. So I'll stop there before I speak to the audit results briefly and just ask if there's any questions on the financial statements that you'd like to have in the open meeting.
Any questions? Not seeing any.
Okay.
Go ahead, thank you.
So very quick summary on the audit results, and just want to highlight that we are here a week earlier than we have been in the past. That's just the way the calendar worked out. And so a big thank you to management to working with us on these timelines to make sure that we were able to get here. And overall, very pleased with the audit results this year. You know, the audit was completed in line with our expectations. And what that means is that when we come in the fall and we start doing our planning and looking at the regional district in terms of what's changed, we think, okay, well, what's changed? What do we have to change in terms of our audit procedures? And what do the audit results look like? And we get that anticipation of what it should be. Then we come in and do our testing. If the testing comes in as expected, that is a good news story. It means we don't have to do additional testing. And additional testing typically means that we're seeing that there's issues that we need to dig in deeper. And we didn't have any of that this year. And because of that, we didn't have to deviate from our planned audit approach, and we didn't identify any internal control deficiencies that we wanted to bring forward to the board. And just last item, just in terms of transparency, because management and even the board are in a unique position where they can get around the control environment. This is any organization, not just the regional district. We have specific testing that we look at to address these concerns, and we didn't have any issues identified in the testing. So overall, as I said, a fairly quiet audit year, which is good to hear from your perspective, and we were happy with how things went. And I will stop there and ask if there's any questions on the audit results.
Thank you so much. Directors, Dr. Cunningham, go ahead.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for the presentation. I enjoyed it and it was well done. And thank you to our staff. I'd like to express thanks to our staff. But you're the ones that did it, put it together in the first place. Well done.
Thank you, Yaz, and Heather and Daryl. And Mario, any questions for Mario? I know you're there. There you are.
I'm still here.
Screens move around. We don't have any questions on this end. Is there anything from your team yet that you guys would like to speak to, or?
Through the chair, just to echo Director Cunningham, thank you for appreciate all the work and effort the finance team put in since the fall, running in parallel with the budget. So big effort from them, as well as thank Mario and his team for meeting their deadlines and working well with our team. And I think we're about 2 weeks ahead of schedule from where we were last year. So it's still quite an accomplishment all around.
Good job, everybody.
Yeah.
Okay, I think we're good. Mario, thank you so very much. You're welcome to stay. This is open.
Thank you. Just want to be here for the motion to approve the financial statements.
Okay, you're welcome to stay for that. Would someone like to move that motion? Thank you. Then would word further discussion. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. And it is done. Good work. I guess we'll see you in about a year's time.
Absolutely. Thank you. If anything comes up throughout the year, please reach out through your CFO. Happy to be of service.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, directors, that is the end of our meeting. Would anyone like to move adjourn?
If Arnie wanted to thank you.
It's not on the agenda. We can adjourn and then we can speak to it.
After June.
We don't add things to the agenda at the last minute. We do it at the beginning. After you adjourn.
Do you need recess?
Yes, no, we're gonna adjourn.
Okay, German for the.
Thank you. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Arnie has something he'd like to say that is not a part of the formal meeting. Go ahead, Arnie.